The smash train clickety-clacked down the track as it left the underground station of Inkopolis. It had been both an eventful couple of days for the Inklings and the Judds. And absolutely exhausting. Some were happier with the results than others. Team Chaos had taken a clean sweep over the competition, and Orange wanted everyone within earshot to hear about it. She and a handful of her fellow Team Chaos kids laughed loudly as they fought back on their decisive victory. However, out of some respect for their orderlies, they did it in a different section of the train. "We did it, boys," Orange said, grinning tootily from ear to point ear. "Order is no more. I've never been prouder to be with you bunch of idiots than I am right now." HNNG. "I don't know. It didn't really seem to change anything," Indigo murmured, idly scraping his shoes across the floor. The purple squid wondered if he had gone down the right path. He had chosen his team based entirely off of the color of ink. I mean, off the hook. Is still together. It's like nothing changed. "Not yet," Lime mused, his arms resting behind his head. "Hopefully the rules will be undone by the time we get back home. In the meantime, I'd recommend finding a gang back in Inkopolis. Protection in numbers, right?" "No," Indigo cried. "That sounds significantly less fun." Collie popped a cork off of an Inkola, letting out a triumphant whoop. "Lighten up there, Helmet. We won this playfest. Order is for losers, anyway. Who'd want to give up an ounce of freedom for anything? In my opinion, this is an absolute win of a situation. Drink up, dude. There's way more where that came from." Hesitantly, Indigo took the bottle from the idol, swirling it around in his hands. He looked down at the inky black drink, before pressing it to his lips. Yesh, it was a little hard going down, but the aftertaste was amazing. "At least you chose the winning team, dude. Take it easy," Lime said. He watched as the station whizzed by behind him in a streak of light. It was dazzling to see, really, as the smash train slowly began to gain speed to make the jump between dimensions. But my friends," Indigo started. "We are your friends," Pink interrupted. Happily, she slapped the other on the back. But she, too, was having her doubts. Some of the orderlies did not seem to be taking this well. Especially Lemon. "You were totally rad out there, Indigo. And, hey, gold is pretty fresh, isn't it?" "Way better than silver," Orange added. "And we took home the gold, too. Looks like our ink color knew what was up, eh?" Collie grinned. She was on her fourth Inkola, but that was neither here nor there. I guess," Indigo muttered, slowly losing his edge. The others looked so upset, and I don't know. It didn't look like anything had changed. In another car, the 5 Team Order members sat in utter silence. The defeat they felt was unmatched by anything else they had ever experienced. Sure, they each had had their fair share of lost fests in their days, but this one would be used to determine the fate of their entire world. Chaos was legally better than Order. And that really made no sense at all. Wasn't chaos the lack of any laws or rules? How could it be legally better? Lemon sat slouched in her seat. She was conscious, but just barely. She had fought valiantly practically 72 hours. Sleeping and eating had not been high on her priority list. And now, she felt like an absolute train wreck. The results were just insult to injury. Team Order had been conclusively shut out by Team Chaos, and that stung her in a deep part of her that she didn't know she had. Pearl was at the wheel of what the world would become from here on out. From the sounds of it, she didn't intend to change anything other than the style of music she and Marina preformed. Hopefully it stayed like that. But chaos could break out at any moment. It was like walking on eggshells. Dozing in and out of reality, Lemon finally slumped over in her seat, allowing sleep to overtake her for the first time in what felt like forever. Her head pounded painfully, and the hearty portion of seaweed and fruit salad that she ate did little to subside the hunger that dug deeply inside of her. Hopefully, when she got back to the hotel, she could have some of that meat stuff snake off and ate. She did quite enjoy it. Even if she had no idea where it came from or how it was produced. The train bumped up in speed again, but none of the Team Order members said anything. Soon enough they would be back at the hotel, surrounded by the Smashers again. Maybe a round or two on Final Destination or Battlefield would take their mind off the humiliating defeat they had just suffered at the hands of those who were on the other team. Soon enough, the feeling of jumping the dimensions hit them once again. A blinding flash of light hit their eyes, as the train made that miraculous jump. Heads were spun and bottles of Inkola were spilled as the train rocketed through the rifts. Something felt off, however. The Smash train seemed to bump more wildly as they re-entered the Smashverse. Shouts of dismay were heard all around the cabins as Inklings were tossed to and fro as if they were nothing. Lemon, however, remained asleep. Completely exhausted from her fruitless efforts, the agent soundly snoozed, bouncing all over the cabin. "What the shell?" Lime exclaimed, as the train suddenly came to a halt. Hey! Hey! You best be careful up there, or so help me Cod!" Collie shouted from the back. She waved an angry fist at the driver. However, there was no driver of the automated train. Orange groaned, pushing herself up and off of the floor. Moving her hair out of her face, the orange Inkling spotted a familiar sight. "Hey! Look alive, shrimps! We're back!" An excited murmur was heard from the Chaos cabin, but the Order posse remained just as somber as before. Shaking Lemon did nothing to wake her up, so Marie took it upon herself to make sure the one who had put herself out there so much for the cause was looked after. The inhabitants of the hotel, however, looked on in confusion. Were we supposed to get newbies here?" Sonic asked, looking out the window at the newcomers. He scratched at his head, tilting it off to the side in an attempt to make sense of the situation. "I don't believe so," Male Karin responded, fixing his hair in a nearby mirror. His eyes glanced out the same window that Sonic was looking out of, and he could, in fact, see something moving through the grass on the lawn. A lot of somethings. "Wow, I've never seen anything like those things before," Captain Falcon exclaimed, his face pressed against the window. 1, 2, 3. Holy hell, there's, like, 20 of them out there." "No, Falcon. There's 12, counting the cats," King K. Rool commented, sipping idly at his tea. "I, for one, welcome in our new friends. Maybe now that one silverfish we have around here will have some company." Since when could you talk?" Sonic asked, confused. "As long as I've been here." "Why?" King K. Rool explained. Idly, he rested his claws against the countertop, wrapping his fingers idly against it. "Huh," Sonic muttered, scratching at his chin. "Well, are we going to go out and welcome the newcomers, or what? We weren't given any notice at all that these guys were coming, so it's the least we can do." Isabel pushed a stool to the tall window before her. It annoyed her that there were no windows that accommodated for the smaller ones among their numbers, but the secretary may do. Hopping onto the stool, she got a gander at exactly what it was that everyone else was gawking at. Before her were some of the strangest abominations of nature she had ever laid her eyes on. She could accept the one of their numbers that actually lived among them. But 12? Holy fuck! Isabel exclaimed. The Inklings had no idea what was waiting for them inside those double doors before them. "Snake, please, calm down. You're going to set the carpet on fire with all that pacing you're doing." Samus sat in a chair in the lobby, watching as her friend went back and forth and back, nervously chewing at his nails. A part of him wanted to crack out a cigarette and smoke the stress away, but something told him the hands wouldn't allow him to indulge in that vice of his inside the hotel's walls. "They were supposed to be back an hour ago," Snake replied curtly, giving her a sideways look. "The Smash train hasn't come back from their home universe, even though the hands made a note to have them on board at a specific time. Something bad happened, Sam. I know it." "You're such a worrywart," Samus told him. Idly, she played with Pikachu, who sat in her lap. "I never knew you could care so strongly about a bunch of kids. Didn't you say you didn't like kids, or something like that? You know, something about them being too loud and too needy?" Snake paused for a moment, reflecting on his words. Yes, he had said that. Way back in Brawl. "These ones are different," Snake told Samus. "They come from a war-torn world where everything is about these turf wars. They've grown on me." "Oh, so times can change, then?" Samus asked him, a small grin coming to form over her face. It was so strange to see Snake this torn up about something so trivial to her. "I'm sure they're fine wherever they are." "But they aren't here," Snake reminded her. "Where they're supposed to be." "Pika." Pikachu murmured, as concerned as Snake was. He did have a point. The hands had made a point to make sure they were on time. Samus looked from her friendly electric mouse, to the worried face of an aging man. Goodness, he did look like a father. Samus let out a small sigh. "I can see your concern, comrade, but there's only one man around here who knows anything about where the Smash train is. We could go to the hands, too, but they're pretty busy most of the time." "Who's that?" Snake asked, furrowing his brows. You aren't going to like it, Samus warned. Tell me, damn it. Stop this messing around. Samus looked Snake in the eyes. Mark, what do you mean, the smash drain is gone? Mark asked, disbelieving, as Snake and Samus appeared at his office. He was astounded, really, that either of them were here. He was fairly certain that both of them would rather have his head on a stake than be having this conversation, and he knew that, with the firepower they had, they could accomplish that quite easily. In all my years of Smash, the Smash Train has never been late to an appointment once. And now you're telling me it never came back with the Inklings? We aren't shitting you, Mark, Snake told the other. His voice was as cold as ice. Snake did not trust Mark. At all. Just seeing that face again made him want to reach out and break its nose. But he was the one who would know if something went wrong. So he was forced to act at least passable. They were set to return this morning. They never came. See where I'm coming from here? What about Joker? Samus asked, raising a brow. It wasn't late. It was stalled for effect. Mark retorted, spinning his office chair back towards his master computer. It's impossible. It shouldn't be possible. Where in the heights is that damn train? Fiddling around with inputs and admin controls, Mark was able to pull up the location of the runaway train. When the location was revealed to him, his heart dropped. Oh my gods, Mark muttered under his breath, a hand flying up to his forehead. Oh, no, no, no. Anywhere but there. What? What is it? What's wrong? Snake shouted at Mark's sudden disapproval. What the hell is happening? Damn it, Mark. What's wrong? Are they okay? They're probably not in any immediate danger, no, Mark told the stealth operator. But why in the ever-loving hell did that train have to wind up over there? Over where? Samus asked. Obviously, this was turning into another crisis situation. Great. That's just what she needed in her life. Looking at the two men, Pikachu wasn't sure who was taking it worse. Snake was worrying like a dad on prom night over his squid children, while Mark looked about ready to beat his head in with a hammer on the nearby handyman stable. Well, you see, we live in this thing called a multiverse, right? Mark muttered, raising his head up slowly to meet the other two. He was wiping a rag across his forehead to try and cool himself down from the heat the whole situation was causing him. Yeah, we know. Cut the history lesson short, Snake said, curtly. Did they end up in some sort of alternate dimension, or something? Mark shot a finger gun at the cover ops. Right you are. And it's got to be just about the worst one that they could have possibly been transported into. Why? Does it, like, rain lava there, or something? Samus asked. Don't tell me that there are more of those guardian things roaming all over the place, the stealth operator directed pointedly. Hey, now. The Guardians can be just as loyal as dogs if you've spent several millennia with them, Mark shot right back. Don't care. Where the hell are they? Snake responded. Someone's a little rude today, Mark grumbled under his breath. However, Mark realized that he probably deserved it. Spinning back towards his main control, he entered a command. The Smash Train is currently located in Smashverse, number 169, came the voice of a computer assistant. Mark gestured at the announcement as if it were supposed to mean something to the three of them. It didn't. Okay, that's nice and all, Samus said, crossing her legs in her seat and leaning forward. But what does that mean, Mark? Don't play cryptic games with us. We will beat this information out of you if we need to. Or, alternatively, if you don't hurry up. Snake cracked his knuckles to get his point across, while Pikachu tensed up, ready to send 10,000 volts through the poor hotel manager. I'm not playing games. I found out where they are. Mark said. Adjusting his reading glasses, he searched for the device that allowed them to look into alternate realities. Turning the crank, he fired it up, and allowed it to default to the dimension that was closest to them on the dimensional plane. It was, in fact, Smashverse 169. That must be why, Mark muttered, more to himself than to either of them. Nervously, his hand went back up towards his hair, and he smoothed it down. There must have been a dimensional shift while they were coming back. Right as they jumped through the space-time. You're babbling, Mark, Snake threatened. I'll give you 5 more seconds before. Calm down, I'm trying to help you. Mark snapped. Jism, the least you could do is show me some respect. Here. Take a look at why it's so bad, the middle-aged man huffed, sliding the device across the desk and towards the others. Snake, hesitantly, moved to pick it up. He and Samus looked upon the screen, which displayed what was happening in the parallel dimension. The Inklings were not expecting this. Sure, they were expecting some kind of positive reception to their return home, but nothing like this. The doors to the hotel swung open with tired Inklings and two cats shuffling inside. Then, a clatter was heard all around them. Instincts running high still from the splatefest, the awake Inklings drew their firearms, dropping their luggage on the ground. "Welcome to Smash." The voices rang out. What the hell did that mean? One by one, Smashers began to appear, grinning wide at the sight of the 12 newcomers that had happened upon the hotel that served as an oasis in a dry desert to them. With a sigh of relief, each of the Inklings returned their pistols to their holsters. It was just the welcome party. "We made it." Kali cheered happily. "We did it. We're home." "No, Kali. Our home is the motel," Marie muttered, exhausted. She was too tired to deal with this right now. Lemon hung limply in her grasp. "Oh. Right. Totally not fresh." "Fascinating creatures," Donkey Kong mused, as he approached the gaggle of Inklings. As if he were a scientist inspecting a new subject, the Great Ape grabbed onto Orange's hair tentacle, inspecting it. "My. What craftsmanship. I wonder where these critters are from." "Blip. Hands off." Orange commanded in Inklish. The translation was lost, and DK kept inspecting the gaggle before him. Orange had, never in her whole life, interacted with Donkey Kong. What gave him the right to touch her? "Keep moving, furry." "Orange, please," Judd said, rather offended. "Oh, right." She muttered, backing off. "I wonder what they'd taste like." Banjo mused, prodding at a leg. Disappointed, the bear turned away. "They ain't got too much meat on them bones." Cyan sneezed, ink splotting everywhere. Almost at once, he apologized profusely, but again, the translation was lost. "If they've got any meat at all," Falco mused. A small, silver Inkling tried to make her way through the legs of the crowd to see what the hubbub was all about. However, they were much taller than her, and she was unable to speak with them to tell them to move. Disgruntled, the squid crossed her arms and pouted. "It appears you've all forgotten this little one," King K. Rool said, gesturing to their own little woomie. The sliver squid looked up at the towering King K. Rool. Why do we keep her around again?" King K. Rool picked her up, before moving her back over towards the seating area. This wasn't her time to shine. Huffing, she crossed her arms, and remained seated. She wanted to see the totally fresh newcomers they had. Everyone, please." A voice roared out, much closer than they expected. "Do not crowd our new friends. And do not eat them either, Lucario." The Aura Pokemon was just about to bite into one of Pink's arms, but refrained. It would be uncivil of him to do so, after all. Descending down the long, spiral staircase came a man dressed in a red suit and a white tie. In one hand, he held a cane, which he tapped lightly against the staircase as he went. Surprisingly, this man was well groomed. His medium-length brown hair rested firmly atop his head, and his face was clean-shaven. All eyes came up towards him, as he made his descent. There was a warm, welcoming smile on the eccentric man's face. "Lookin' good day, Max." Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome, said, shooting a finger at the other well-dressed man. "Sharp as a knife, as always." Max shot a finger back at the other, and a wink. "Gotta say, Doug, you clean up well yourself." The stairs only went halfway down. The other half of the downhill battle required the use of a fireman's pole. The one named Max, tossing aside his cane and megaphone, did just that. He slid down all the way to the ground, before addressing his group of smashers. "What? The shrimp?" Blue muttered, his eyes wide on the, still grinning, man before them. "Oh? Now, what did the cat drag in for us today?" Max asked. "We don't know," Funky Kong said, using his surfboard as a support to lean again. "These bodacious little dudes just came off that drain there. I didn't know we were getting newbies today." "Me either," Max hummed, a finger running quizzically across his cheek. "It looks like Sylv's gonna have some new friends, isn't she?" "Sylv?" Funky asked. "That one little squid that runs around here every now and then," Meta Knight informed him. His pink mask shone brightly through the light of the daytime. "She doesn't cause much trouble, and flies under the radar quite often." "Radical," Funky mused. "Who the shell is that?" Cyan asked, pointing directly at the red-suited man. The suit was loose on him, his slim figure standing confident and tall above the squid children. He looked somewhat familiar, but in a strange way. Mark? Indigo asked, taken aback. No way. That's not Mark, Pink said. Lemon would have sensed something and killed him already. Lemon continued to snooze, snoring softly. Marie had dumped her on top of her luggage. Now, I don't know any Marks or anything, but I'd be happy to introduce myself, Max said, in perfect Inklish. This took the Inklings aback. They had never heard a human speak their language before. And it sounded like he was a native speaker. Whoa. Holy fish passed. Why you speak English? Cyan asked, in awe. A smile stretched across Max's face once more. Of course I do. I speak all kinds of languages. Max told them, sticking out a hand for a handshake. My name is Max, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Timidly, each of the Inklings came forth to give Max a handshake. The other Smashers had grown bored of their new housemates, and left in their own separate directions. The Silver Inkling, however, remained where she was on the couch. One more thing before I let you guys go, Max mused, crouching down to one knee. The smile reflected off the sun, casting a pleasant ray to bathe the Inklings. Welcome to Smash. Snake placed the device back on the table. He had seen all he needed to. It didn't matter what he saw, in reality. He was going to bring those Inklings back if it was the last thing he did. Alright, I get it, Snake said. It's a different Smashverse. Just get us the train back, and we can go get them, right? It's not that simple, Mark told them. Of course it wasn't. Snake let out a silent huff. You see, trains need tracks to be able to run on, right? Mark started explaining. It's much easier to build a track in a straight line than it is to build in a literal 180. Smashverse 169 is not one of the realms we thought was worth visiting. And, coincidentally, it's right next to this realm in the astral plane. You see, it's like we're here. Mark placed one hand directly in front of him, and they're here. He placed his other hand right next to the other. HMG, Snake grunted. He didn't like the sound of that. Are you saying that they're stuck? Samus asked. What about the hands? Is there anything that they can do to help? Theoretically? Yes, Mark said, adjusting his reading glasses again, but in practice, the results wouldn't be the greatest. You see, the hands get pretty tired pretty easily when it comes to moving things across dimensions. 10 Inklings and 2 cats would not be the best. What do you mean? Snake asked. Mark thought for a second. Have you ever put eggs in a blender? It's like that, except it probably hurts more. Right, Snake grumbled. Always something around here. Are you saying that they're stuck? Samus repeated. Not necessarily. We do have other ways of getting where we need to in this crazy multiverse that isn't by train or hand, Mark told them. But it's all theoretical. I've been working pretty closely on a different kind of transportation that can hop dimensions. But I've never tried it. Mostly out of fear of getting stuck somewhere far from my family. He paused. And you guys, I guess. We'll take it, Samus said. Where is it? Slow down. Mark said. Smashverse 169 is extremely unstable. I'm fairly certain that it shouldn't even exist. And yet, here we are. There's crooks, bandits, and troublemaker everywhere. With this transport, it won't be as pinpoint perfect as a train would be. But it's the best option. If you're serious about this. Mark paused for a moment, as if awaiting an answer. Snake caught on quickly. Yes. We're serious. Mark continued, if you're serious about this, we're going to need a lot of manpower behind it. It's the only way we'll survive out in the wilderness of verse 169. Manpower, eh? Snake said. We're living in a hotel filled with some of the greatest manpower this whole damn multiverse has ever seen, Samus told the other. She was fully on board with this rescue mission now. We're in. We'll find the firepower, you get this transportation running. Right, of course. Mark said. The vessel can house, like, 20 or so people, and this doesn't count small animals or small children, so Pikachu doesn't count. Counting me, you two need to find 17 other idiots willing to risk their lives for this. Who says you're coming? Snake asked, coldly. Mark rolled his eyes. Who do you think is going to drive this thing? Snake sat back in his seat. Right. Fair, I suppose. Meet back and say 1,300 hours tomorrow afternoon, and we'll discuss the plan with the idiots who are coming with us, Mark said, raising his hand for a handshake. Do we have a deal? I really like those Inklings, too, even if they'd rather have me dead." Snake took his hand, and shook. They had quite a task ahead of them. "Nope. No way. You're on your own, guys." Snake was about ready to pull his hair out. Everywhere he turned for help, he was turned down. Perhaps due to the extreme trauma many of them had already endured during their time here in the original Smashverse, or perhaps due to simple laziness, each and every competitor he had asked during or after his matches had turned him down. He had a restless night as he and Samus continued to try and recruit more members for their rescue mission. At noon of the day, with 1 hour left, Snake, Samus, and Pikaka were the only ones other than Mark dead set on going on this trip. Exhausted due to lack of sleep, and partly because of having his ass kicked so many times in his matches today, Snake shuffled over to the table where he and the friends he had made during the Smash tournament would come to eat lunch. Ironically, he hadn't tried to ask any of them, yet. "What's up, Buttercup? You look like walking death if I do say so myself," Falco said, taking his seat across the table from Snake. "Up all night thinking about home again, or what?" "No," Snake broadly responded, rubbing his eyes with his gloved hands. "Recruiting." "Recruiting? For what?" Fox asked, making his appearance. With a plate full of food, the ace pilot took a seat beside his feathery companion. "The Inklings got lost in another dimension, and their fathers were sick," Samus informed them. Her tone was completely serious, and she looked just as tired as Snake did, if not worse. "Huh, I thought something was missing around here. It's been a lot quieter around here, now that I remember it," Fox muttered, scratching at the spot under his muzzle. "Are they really stuck in another dimension?" "I wish I was kidding you," Snake said. "Trying to find anyone, to come with us other than Mark is proving to be pretty difficult," Snake told them. Mark's name dripped with venom. It was obvious the two of them weren't exactly on the same terms. "Oh my, that sounds serious," Isabelle chirped up. The little dog had been present for the entire conversation, and was nervously twitching in her spot. "We're supposed to find 17 other numbskulls willing to hop over a dimension and go get them," said Samus. Idly, she played with her food. "We've got an hour." "Geez, that's a little short notice," Falco said. "We'll come with you." "Really?" Samus, Snake, and Fox all exclaimed at the same time. Falco, inspecting the feathers of his wing, offered a shrug. "Yeah, sure, why not? Say, will we get paid for this?" "Falco." Fox groaned. "I mean, no disrespect to you two, but I've had a pretty exciting time in this dimension. I don't know if I'm ready to hop over to another one." "Shut it, McCloud. You're coming with too," Falco commanded. The seriousness in the bird's voice took Fox aback. Shooting a sideways glance at Star Fox's commander, Falco added, "Don't you remember what General Pepper always taught us? Back when we were on the force together." A faint voice whispered in Fox's mind. "Never leave a comrade behind. If they get hurt, it's almost as if you were the one who pulled the trigger." Fox suddenly understood. His expression softened, and his tense state relaxed ever so slightly. For the first time in his smart-assed life, Falco was right. "You're right, Falco. I'm sorry. I'll come with," Fox nodded. "We're coming." "Great, at least it's a start," Snake muttered. They had 2 of 17 down. Only 15 more in under an hour. I'll come too," Isabelle suddenly exclaimed. It took everyone off guard, including the few villagers that were gathered. "Really?" Falco asked. "I was just being overdramatic. You don't have to come, Isa. Serious." "And no, I want to come," Isabelle said with more authority. "I hate being unable to control the outcome. I can't just let you all wander off into a whole new dimension all by yourselves. You have no idea how bad I feel about not being able to come with to the Reset Temple." It's definitely a good thing she wasn't allowed to come with, Snake thought. A visible shudder went through the stealth operator. But he could see where she was coming from. Too often he had been left powerless to stop a situation from spiraling out of control. And, well, they needed to fill seats in whatever kind of vehicle Mark had scored them. "Alright, then," Snake said, with a nod. "We've got 45 minutes to find 14 more people to take the journey with us. We've got this. We've all been under more impossible circumstances before." "I haven't," Isabelle muttered weakly. Snake cast her a look, except Isabelle, but that's alright. She's charming enough to get even the least likely person on board. "Do we understand our mission?" "Yeah, Dr. Cheese, we gotcha," Falco yawned, stretching backward. No need for a pep talk, boss. We're losing precious daylight. We'd better hop on it before Mark hops dimensions without us, right? Snake muttered. Team? Break. Go find more asses for those seats. Fox might be a fearless commander of the skies. He knew how to communicate well with his teammates and friends well enough to get the job done, and oftentimes people would know exactly what was going on with him. But he never really considered himself a people person. He often avoided the press, who heralded him as a war hero. To be fair, he really was. But he didn't take the fame. Instead, he remained humble, and led a rather tucked-away life when the Force didn't need him. That wouldn't make this any easier. Scouting about, Fox found the table where the writers, as they had been called, would eat together. However, it looked rather deserted at the current time. The only three that remained were from the Kirby universe. Those being Kirby, Meta Knight, and King Dedede. Kirby and Dedede were having a gourmet race of sorts, while remaining stationary. Meta Knight watched from afar. He hadn't even touched his own food yet. Almost timidly, Fox approached the others. Hey, guys. How's it going? Kirby and King Dedede turned their heads to look at the furry newcomer, their cheeks stuffed full of food. Sweaty God, are you? King Dedede asked, chewing as he spoke. Fox rubbed the spit out of his face. Yeah, hey, I was wondering. You see, we've got a little bit of a situation that I need some help with, and it's really short notice. Do you mean Snake's plan to retrieve the Inklings? Meta Knight asked, his amber eyes gazing up at the Fox. Because we are not interested. Go away. Yes, that's exactly. Hold on, how did you know about Snake's plan? Fox asked. Meta Knight shrugged. I know a lot of things. Dedede swallowed hard, before turning his eyes back to the other. You know what? What? Fox asked. Both he and Meta Knight focused on the king, who was idly dabbing away a droplet of ketchup that had leaked from his beak. When I joined this air tournament, I thought, you know, Dedede? You's a villain. You's gotta get good with them villains club fellas. So I tried and tried, but it didn't do nothing. I came to a realization, recently, though. I don't need them villains. I got all the friends I could ever want right here. The king gestured to his two friends. Meta Knight squinted. Very inspirational, Fox complimented, rubbing the backside of his head. But what does that have to do with anything? I was getting there, Dedede said. I realized I don't want to be a villain anymore. Why not try being a hero for once? With a gleam in his eye, Dedede grinned. You know what? I'm in. I don't got an idea what we're doing, but I'm all for it. Poyo. Kirby beamed happily. Looked like the little god eater was in, too. Excellent. Fox beamed, clapping his hands together. Meta Knight looked at the other two. Disappointed, he sighed. Fine, then. If you two nincompoops are going, I suppose I will, too. Meta Knight moved to pick up Galaxia. Softly, he added, because I care about your well-being. What was that? Dedede asked. Nothing, Meta responded, swinging his blade twice in the air. Dramatically, he looked to Fox. When are we leaving? Fox checked his watch. 30 minutes. In the garage. Awesome. Dedede chirped. I can't believe we's getting some more heart-pumping action around here. Regrettably, Meta Knight muttered. Hey, Wolf. Isabel said, popping her head over the pilot's magazine. Wanna come dimension hopping with me? Wolf's eyebrows furrowed. WH. Isabel, you can't just ask a question like that and expect me to know what the heck it is that you're talking about. We're going to rescue the Inklings. Isabel cheered. I just thought that you'd be a perfect fit. We're gonna need all the help we can get. The Star Wolf commander paused for a moment. Who's all going? Well, I already recruited Sonic, Little Mac, Incineroar, and Young Link, but we have more. He didn't hear any Star Fox members on that list. Nodding his head, he returned to his magazine. Sure. What time are we doing this, then? Isabel checked her watch. 23 minutes in the garage. Wolf nearly choked. That was extremely short notice. Usually, he would have preferred a 2-week notice before agreeing to jump dimensions like that. It was too late to back out now, though. He wasn't even entirely sure to what he'd just agreed to, either, and that's what's going on, Falco said, crossing his arms. The looks on those gathered were bewildered to say the least. Falco held up a feathered hand to stop them. I'll take all the applause later. This is a serious matter and I ain't one to waste time. Usually. Any questions? every one of the young sword fighters, and Richter, rosy hand. "Oh geez, I thought I did a pretty good job of explaining," Falco muttered, scratching his head. Scanning, he pointed to one of them. "Ah, you. Big muscle boy with the long sword. Are we getting paid?" Ike asked. "No, unfortunately. I had the same question," the bird dismissed. You. Red Marth. "How dangerous is it over in that other realm?" Roy asked, looking up at Falco. No idea," he responded honestly. "You. Girl Marth. How are we getting to this other dimension if we don't have the train?" Lucina asked. I don't know, really. Mark promised us a ride, though. Next. You, soldier guy. Why do you trust Mark? He's done nothing but wrong us, Cloud asked, pointedly. Falco gave Cloud a long look, before shrugging. This whole Q&A session was going nowhere. Right, yeah, okay, fine. I don't know much about the details, alright? I'll admit it. But all I know is that we need your help. Snake's real torn up, and I think we all personally love those little squid gremlins, right? There are squids here? Ape shouted, alarmed. At once, he drew his blade. Where? I'll take 'em. Everyone watched for a moment, before Roderick spoke up. I think the heroes will pass. You're on your own. Alright, cool. Thanks for wasting my time, then, Falco shrugged. Anyone else? I'm not going, Cloud said, crossing his arms. Fine. Cool. Anyone else? I think we need to go, Ike spoke, arms crossed heavily over his chest. There are innocents on the line. Innocents that we know. We can't abandon them. What, he said. Roy spoke up, making the impulsive decision to come with on the trip. Besides, it sure was boring around here. I'm coming with, Richter said, strongly. His vampire killer hung loosely at his side. It seemed to jump at the words Richter spoke, as if itching for a new adventure. I haven't almost bled out in a while. I think it's time to change that. This got a small chuckle out of Lucina, and a few others around the table. Triumphantly, Girl Marth moved to stand. I challenge the fate that the elder gods of the universe have given these poor children. I'm coming with. And so am I, Solo said. The rest of the heroes looked to each other, and then towards their green-haired comrade. Each let out a collective sigh. The heart wanted what it wanted, they supposed, and that might include abandoning one's friends. Awesome. Let's see McCloud beat this haul. Falco grinned. When do we leave? Richter asked, making a brief eye contact with Lucina. It had been a while since her eyes were off of Solo's. Falco checked his watch. Looks like we got 15 minutes, Chief. In the garage. Pika Pika. Pikachu. Pikachu explained, waving his arms around like a madman. Hi. Pikapi. You sound frantic. It is bold of you to assume that I'll be willing to leave over something as minuscule as 8 missing children, Mutwo told the other Pokemon telepathically. Pika. Pika Pika. Pikachu continued. 10 missing children and 2 missing, immortal cats, you say? Mutwo asked, a bit taken aback. It might have just been his own anatomy, but Mutwo actually had a soft spot for cats. Mew had really solidified that for the physic type. A moment of silence passed, as Mutwo thought deeply. He floated idly in the hallway adjacent to the lunchroom, his eyes shut and focused. Pikachu watched on. It was a far cry, really. Asking the most powerful Pokemon in existence to help them on their quest. Mutwo's eyes suddenly fluttered open. I'll do it. Pika? Pikachu asked, astounded. Yes, I'll do it, Mutwo responded. And it looks like I don't have time to change my mind. We do have only 10 more minutes before we need to meet in the garage. 1 p.m. The bells chimed out that the time had come for the daring adventurers to meet Mark in the garage. In clumps, they trickled in, meeting a distressed Snake pacing the way. Damn it, Mark. You said 1,300 hours sharp. It's 1,300. Where are you? Captain Falcon wandered into the garage with a sandwich in his hands. Idly, he was munching on it, not at all fazed by the fact that there were more people in the garage than there had ever been before. Oh man, what's going on in here? Falcon asked through a mouthful of sandwich. We're hopping dimensions to go and save some squids, Little Mac told the other. Incineroar. Sriracha purred happily. Oh, sweet. Can I come? Little Mac did a quick sweep through the garage. Excluding the small children and small animals, which he felt Kirby and Meta Knight fell into, they had 8 team members. Mac shrugged. Sure. I don't see why not. Captain Falcon fist pumped. Awesome. Just then, a van popped, violently, into reality, crashing heavily against the ground and walls of the garage. In it, the driver was bounced around like a basketball bounding down a steep slope. As if by instinct, everyone drew their weapons on the sudden appearance, before diving for cover. Once things began to make sense again, however, the guards were dropped. Mark laughed wildly, undoing his cheap tie and tossing it in one of the back row of seats. Oh, thank the gods. I thought for sure I'd clip into a wall or something and be ripped apart. What the hell is that thing? Samus asked, taken aback. Is that just a souped-up minivan? Mark gave a wild grin. The look in his eyes screamed mad genius, but his body language whispered little schoolgirl. What can I say? I did say it was theoretical, didn't I? And it works. Why didn't you just drive it in instead of risking your life? Isabel asked, a paw on her chin. Mark waved the question away. Testing procedures. Come on, get in. I'm sure we can seat all of you. The interdimensional Ivan, as Mark had called the dorky hunk of metal, could seat everyone. Just not comfortably. It had multiple rows of back seats, and an expansive backloading area. However, with the sheer number of smashers boarding the thing, conflict was bound to ensue. This is humiliating, Meta Knight complained. Both he and Kirby were forced to sit on King Dedeed's lap to save space. The large king, however, took up seating for at least 3 people. Sonic and Roy were squished beneath the king's massive size. Can't you drive any smoother? Falco shouted, bumping his head for what must have been the umpteenth time this ride. Quiet down back there, or I will turn this van around. Mark shouted. We're not exactly driving on a road right now, and I don't know how fast we need to be going to get this sucker to make the jump. I don't see what they're all complaining about, Samus said, from her comfortable spot in the shotgun position. This might be more of Snake's mission than her own, but she did, in fact, call shotgun, so the stealth operator had to sit in the back. I think it drives pretty well. Mutwo floated above the others, but was still tossed around the cab like a beach ball at a rave. He was starting to have second thoughts as to why he'd decided to come. How fast are we going? Falcon asked, standing and sticking his head between the center console and the 2 up front. We've gotta be getting there. Can I hit the button? No. Not yet. Mark said, slapping the cap's hand. We'll be sliced to bits. Just a little faster. What's the top speed? Falcon asked. I don't know. Like, 60. Mark said. Miles per hour was not a measurement they used in the Smashverse. 60 was pretty fast. Get your ass out of my face. Wolf shouted, pushing the man away from his standing spot. Douglas went down, and rolled on the floor. They hit another bump, and his body flew to the back of the van, crushing Ike. I think we're there, Mark. Samus shouted. They were. The terrain was rocky, but they had managed to top the interdimensional Ivan out at 60. Hold on to something. Mark shouted backward, his hand hovering over the button. This might get a little. They hit another bump, and his hand slammed down on the button. All at once, the back compartment began to open. A dimensional rift was shot out before them, and the van entered it at top speed. A moment later, there was no rift. And no van. The plains of Smashverse 169 were calm and tranquil that day. Lightly, a breeze blew through the tall grasses. It was a day any nomadic people could enjoy. One specific nomad was sniffing the nearby flowers. The human inhaled deeply, before plucking one of the flowers to bring home to his tribe. Overhead, this universe's interpretation of birds chirped, chasing after one another. Everything was calm and peaceful. That was, of course, until a rift unleashed a van full of smashers literally screaming into existence. The rift was gone in mere seconds. It had lingered just long enough for the interdimensional Ivan to make its way into the verse. Mark, Snake, and everyone in between was screaming their head off as the van touched down in the middle of a large grassland plains. Luckily, unlike their own Smashverse, there were no trees to violently crash into. Mark jerked the wheel, causing the van to correct, overcorrect, and then correct again, skidding the van to a stop only inches away from a boulder poking out from the ground. Once the van was solidly back to the not-moving state, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Smooth, Falco murmured, checking his own pulse to make sure that he was, in fact, alive. I'd like to see you do any better. Mark exclaimed triumphantly. Taking out a suit pocket watch from his trouser pants, Mark made a check. Smash verse, 169. They had successfully made it. So, we're here now, Little Max spoke, his heart rate slowly beginning to decrease. But where do we go from here? I assume they've got a hotel of their own, right? Wolf asked. Excellent work, Detective, Fox responded sarcastically. The R-Wing pilot had just pulled himself off of the wall, and was rubbing his head. Though, I don't exactly see a massive hotel poking out around here. All I see is... Looking out the window, Fox came to realize that they weren't alone. Slowly, a tribe of bandits was slowing making their way towards the I-van. Each of the men had a red bandana around their face, and was carrying something similar to... A shot rang out, as a gun was fired at the side of the van. Isabel yelped, cowering under the wide seats. Roy threw his arms defensively over his head, ducking under the seat. Solo quickly shoved Richter out of the way to slam his shield against the side of the van, protecting them from any more shots. On that one specific area, more shots riddled the vehicle. "What are you doing?" Snake shouted from the back. "Drive." Mark turned the key, only for the ignition not to ignite. "Oh, for the love of..." Mark cursed. He tried it again, to the same effect. "Oh no, they're getting closer," Sonic shouted. The blue hedgehog was right. At bandits we're rushing the van, charging at full force. Come on, Mark said through gritted teeth. He took the key out and blew on it. "What the hell is that gonna do?" Captain Falcon asked. Popping the key back in, it started right up. "Aha!" Mark shouted triumphantly. Instantly, the pedal was to the metal as Mark screeched away from the approaching danger. There was more to come, however. "Something tells me we aren't in the right hotel," Cyan the Inkling said, warily looking about the walls. Does this wallpaper look the same to you?" "Really? That's what tipped you off?" Lime asked, astounded. "The wallpaper? No squirt?" "Why yeah. It's weird, isn't it?" The light blue Inkling moves closer to touch the wall. Lightly, he moved his fingers along the wall, inspecting. "Yeah. That's definitely different." 4 of the 10 Inklings walked the hallways of the hotel. The quartet wished to explore a little bit. Something about the hotel had struck them as a bit different, and they wished to get to the bottom of it. "Is there something else that should have tipped me off?" Cyan asked defensively. "Just a few," Orange retorted. "I mean, for starters, the place smells a lot nicer than it did before we left." "And that Max guy? The one who greeted us?" Blue added. "The one who somehow spoke perfect English?" "So they finally replaced Mark. Big deal. The guy was a total buckethead. I think we're better off without him," Cyan responded. As the 4 of them walked on, they passed a man who looked similar to a lemur. The lankier astronaut wore blue, and offered the Inklings a short wave, before continuing on. "See? A lemur's here," Cyan said. "Convincing point," Orange muttered sarcastically. "Didn't the kitchen used to be over there?" Blue asked, pointing at what was an indoor bowling alley. "I don't think we ever had one of those things." "A lot can happen in 3 days," Cyan defended. Lime stopped moving suddenly. The rest of the Inklings were slow to notice at first, but eventually sensed their friend was no longer with them. "Lime? What's going on?" Orange asked, confused. He only stopped suddenly like this when... "We're being followed," Lime told them, tossing a glance over his shoulder. There was a light sound of surprise, but it was audible. At once, the 4 of them drew for their weapons. The nerves of the final split fist were still in each and every one of them present. Cyan was shaking, as he held his gun out. "Hey, are you sure?" "I saw something," Lime told them. Suddenly, he turned into an enclave, pointing his gun before him. He hesitated when he saw their stalker. "What is it, Lime?" Blue asked. Coming forward, Cyan, Blue, and Orange saw exactly what it was that softened Lime's attack. A silver Inkling, no more than 14, was cowering in fear of the rest of them. "I am SOE." The terrified Inkling girl shouted. Please don't shoot me." A moment of silence passed, as the Inklings exchanged glances. "Okay," Cyan suddenly said, breaking the silence. There was a panic growing up in his chest as he realized something. "We're not at the right hotel." The I-van sputtered along like a dying jalopy. What had once been the cutting-edge innovation in dimension-hopping technology was now hardly even an operational vehicle. Those inside were no better. Sweaty and tired, the travelers had fought tooth and nail to keep the attackers, who seemed to be everywhere, at bay. Every once and a while, the team couldn't escape these attacks. The van would be ambushed by a number of groups. After the bandits, a band of mercenaries had launched after their van, impaling one of the wheels. I, who knew how a mercenary thought, was able to keep the offensive at bay with the help of Roy, while Captain Falcon conducted the quickest tire change in the history of all time. They were back on the road in no time flat. Next, a band of beasts rocked the van on its side. Lucina and Richter made an excellent pair to tackle the alpha of the pack, while Solo, ironically, went solo on the lesser members. King Dedede, Incinero Ore, and Little Mac were able to tip the van right side up again, and off they went. When the oppressive heat made the van overheat, it was young Link who had just what they needed. Happily, the child dumped a potion of healing into the compartment where antifreeze would go. Somehow that worked. As the weary road trip continued on, the van took beating after beating, and continued on. Eventually, they found a road. You know what they say, Mark mumbled, wearily, completely jumping the curb and landing harshly on the pavement, all roads lead to hotel. That pun was awful, Wolf told him. I swear, just for that, the van's going to blow up with us inside it. I thought that was pretty good, Snake responded. Thank you. Mark smiled. Snake, suddenly realizing he had accidentally complimented his greatest enemy, went silent again. Fuck. He was losing his grudge. The posse continued on down the road for a while, before the worst possibility came to play. Check engine? Mark asked, tapping his dashboard. I've been nothing but nice to this thing. I don't have the money for a replacement engine. I'm on a hotel salary. The 20,000 bullet holes say otherwise, Mutwo communicated. The I-van sputtered one last time, before finally going kaput in the middle of the road. Luckily, there didn't seem to be any cars coming. Which meant no cars to hitchhike with, either. Mark tried to start the van again, to no avail. Their only ride was now no more. This is where we die. It's been nice knowing you all, Meta Knight said positively. Such a ray of sunshine, Ike commented, his arms crossed. But he's right. We're dead. No we aren't. Sonic suddenly said. Look. Up ahead. Way up ahead. Everyone followed the blue hedgehog's point. Down the road and caked in fog, there seemed to be the outline of a large building. It bore the unmistakable marking that each of them knew well. The Smash logo. It was this version's Smash Hotel. We're saved. Roy screamed. Not yet, King Dedede said. We still gotta walk all the way up there without dying. Looks like a walk in the park. Captain Falcon beamed. There was a dent from a bullet on his helmet. I'll race you all. Sonic grinned. You're on, Slowpoke. Everyone else groaned. They really had no other option, now that the I-van was less useful to them now than a literal brick. One question remained as the Smashers abandoned their dimension-hopping van. How would they get home once they actually did rescue the Inklings? A gaggle of Inklings walked through the main lobby of the hotel, passing a group gathered around a table playing cards. Agent 3 had finally woken up, and the yellow Inkling wanted to prove to herself that this was, in fact, not the right place for them to lodge. Pink had assured her that they were in a different place, but Lemon didn't buy it right away. Pink would have to do a lot of work to regain her trust. The card players paused their game for a moment, watching as 5 of their new competitors looked around the massive place for any semblance of sense. Unfortunately, there was no semblance to be found. What do ye lads make of them new fish engines? The Demoman asked, taking a moment to swig from his, comically large, shot of whiskey. The hard alcohol didn't even seem to faze the black, Scottish Cyclops, who continued on with the game of cards as if all was fine. I've seen a lot of weird mutants in me day, but them things? They take the Olay cake. We do already have one, Phoenix Wright told the others. The lawyer reclined comfortably in the plush chair. Haven't you seen that little silver one around here? Sure, it's a lot shorter than those other ones, but I do think it's what were they called again? Fish kids or Troutons, or something like that, I think, Biker Wario corrected. He tossed down an ace of spades. No. Something like a Stinkling, or something like that. A Goomba with a hat on said. Everyone looked to the worthless member, before shaking their heads. Disappointed, the Hat Goomba sighed, returning to his cards. Whatever they are, I'm just glad that they're safe, V169 Ritter muttered, his eyes glancing out the, too tall, window. I swear, it's more dangerous than Count Von Count's castle out there. Von. Two. The piranha plant shouted from behind the vampire killer. Richter shot bolt upright, terrified out of his mind. This got a laugh out of all of the card players, and made Richter drop his set of cards. Richter sighed, stooping to retrieve his cards. Oh, yeah. Haha. Very funny, you guys. It gets better every time. Biker Wario chortled. Please. Can't we be a little more mature? Ridley asked the others, standing close by. Pichu hung on his shoulder, cheekily peeking at some players' cards and signaling those to Mr. Mime. The Mime Pokemon was wearing a pair of rimmed sunglasses and a fedora to hide its face. No, the plant said. The others gathered around the table shook their heads in agreement, much to Richter's dismay. Whatever, the vampire hunter said. I've got a full house anyway. Richter placed down his Pokemon and baseball cards on the table. The others gasped in disbelief. Pichu slapped himself on the forehead. He had funded all of Mr. Mime's bid this round. He was out 15 Pokecoins. Across the way, a much different party was having a very similar conversation. The Inklings were much more popular than they had originally imagined. Maybe that little silver squid will come out of hiding now that it has new friends to play with, Liquid Snake mused, a finger tracing idly along the rim of his wineglass. Something about the Inklings screamed out to him, but he couldn't tell what. He had no interest in art and their fashion sense was much too shirted for his liking. And still, something called to him. Bah, he pushed it aside. We have a silver ink kit? Paul Bunyan asked, towering over the stealth operator. The literal giant scratched at his fluffy brown beard, his axe crashing to the ground and almost decapitating Jeff the Killer. I've never seen anything like those goofballs. You can't see for shit. Jeff shouted up at the brute. Watch where you're tossing that giant axe of yours, or I'll rip out an eye. Paul turned quickly, his axe swinging in his grip. It knocked over bookshelves and lamps, causing many present in the lobby to scream and duck for cover. What? Who said that? Just then, Max strode into the room. The slim man honestly didn't need the cane supported his weight on, and yet, he still brought it with him everywhere he went. At this point, the smashers of Smashverse 169 would be surprised to see a day where the hotel manager didn't bring it with him. He wore his $1 million smile, and offered the others present a happy salute. Good morrow, chaps and ladies. How goes it on such a beautiful day? His greeting went unreciprocated. Rude. Say, Max? How comes you didn't tell us you's bringin' all them squiddies to our Smash Hotel? Pete the obese black cat asked, scratching his head. All them other newbies had a big ol' day a celebration. But them squids, they do waltz on in like they own the place. Yes, why is that, Maxwell? Toadsworth asked, adjusting his spectacles. A barrage of questions was suddenly hurled at the man in the red suit. Left and right smashers grilled him like there was no tomorrow. Taking off his large, red-top hat, Max pulled out an air horn. Tooting it loudly, it caused everyone in the surrounding mile to silence themselves for Max to speak. Gah, you people. So rude. Max huffed, spinning the horn in his hand for a moment before replacing it. First you don't tell me good morrow, and then you don't quiet yourselves to hear my statement? Bah. Pathetic. So sorry, Max. Won't happen again, feller. Promise. Paul Bunyan promised, lowering himself down on one knee to be more on the level of the others. If Jerry the Mouse didn't move out of the way, he would have been squished flat for the final time. That's what you said last time. Max said, smoothing out his suit. It was absolutely immaculate with not a line or button out of place. Now, will you allow me? Of course, Ridley spoke, leaning up against a ladder. It wobbled dangerously, with the worker above teetering uncontrollably. The space dragon didn't care, but knew that if he fell, he would save him. It's simple, Max began. With all the accuracy of a military sniper, he plucked a hair from the bottom of his chin that had been growing out of place. Me and the voice never did order them. You didn't order them. King K. Rool shouted. How in the blazes did they get here, then? And why on earth are we allowing them to stay with us? In a streak of anxiety, the large king pushed himself up from his chair, pacing back and forth throughout the entire lobby. They could be dangerous. They could be carriers of illnesses. My, how unprofessional. Max held his hands up to silence any further questions. Don't you worry, my beautiful smashers. Me and the voice have worked it out, and we've spoken to the Inklings. They aren't a danger to us. In fact, Those little squids would be more in harm's way if we simply cast them out in the world to fend for themselves. You've all seen how it was out there. Totally bogus, Funky Kong said, nodding his head in agreement. Max snapped a finger and pointed at the Kong, his signature toothy grin stretching his face once again. Exactly. Totally bogus. Holding his bombs up to the audience, he did a small spin to turn his back to them. His hands folded inward, clasping gently around one another. It would be inhumane if we let them outside. All alone, and cold, and hungry. We can't stand for that. Max turned around once more, his eye burdened with a heavy sadness. Have a heart, people. These Inklings are in a situation as dire as the rest of us. We can treat them like friends, like family, just like we've treated each other, can't we? A small babble of chatter went up among the cast. This small measure did not please Max. Can't we? Max asked again, raising his arms. I, for one, accept our new Inkling friends. Digby, Isabel's twin brother, finally spoke up. And besides, we always need more fresh blood in here. Max can only be so interesting, right? This caused chuckles to erupt throughout the lobby. Max reveled in this. With a smug smile on his lips, he reached into his pocket, grabbing out the juice pouch he had on him at all times just for moments like this. Coming to himself, he poked the straw through the hole, before drinking deeply. MMH. One could never beat a classic berry blast. With his cause put into motion, Max turned on his heel to return to his office, sucking down his juice pouch all the while. Before he could leave, however, Dark Pit stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. Hey, question, the angel started. I'm busy, Max told him, trying to continue on his way. We haven't heard from the voice in a while. Is he okay? Dark asked the other. Max continued walking on. I told you already. He's on a vacation. Don't bug me anymore about it. The answer wasn't what Dark Pit wanted. The Raven Angel had lost a lot in his life already. From where he was from, Pit had died trying to save his life. Because of this, Dark Pit lived in an eternal cold. And the only way he could escape from it was if he made others around him feel the same warmth that Pit often brought into the room. If the voice was really okay, they would have heard from it by now, wouldn't they? Max, come on. Pit too said, following the other. Where did he go? Max gave Dark Pit a glance, but didn't answer the question. Instead, he took a hard left. Dark Pit was shocked by this, overshooting the hallway. Surprised, Dark Pit was soon to retrace his steps to follow down the hallway. Except Max was no longer there. As if he had vanished into thin air. Dark Pit started, before an intense cold shot up his spine. He cringed, tensing up. That man is always so hard to talk to. Is she from Inkopolis? Lemon asked, when the 8 Inklings gathered together once again on her walk. She had come to realize that this was, in fact, not the right place. From the looks of it, they might not even be in the same dimension as they were before. The original 8 Inklings looked over at the 9th, Silver Inkling, who was happily blowing bubbles with her bubble blower. The realization that this wasn't the right place was hitting different Inklings in different ways. Cyan was in a full-on panic attack, hardly making coherent words anymore. Orange thought it was a whole new adventure for them to be on. The old Smashverse was getting stale, anyway. Lime remained stoic, not showing how he truly felt about the whole situation. And Lemon? She missed it. She missed it a lot. She missed knowing what was happening and how things worked and how to control things. She missed the people. She missed Samus, and young Link. But most of all, she missed Snake. The first person she tried to seek out was Solid Snake. However, the man was nowhere to be found. She searched and looked to no avail. Eventually, she did find someone who looked an awful lot like the Snake she knew. But when she approached and tried talking to him, the other turned her away. Liquid Snake felt a pull towards the Inklings, yes, but he felt no desire to put up with their childish ways. I think so? Blue muttered, throwing a glance over his shoulder at the younger Squid Kid. She did mention Inkopolis as her home. But from how she describes it, it's totally off the walls. What do you mean? Pink asked, her eyes narrowing. Order 1 in her version of home, Lime suddenly spoke up, inspecting his splattershot. Gods, if only that were true, Lemon groaned. She didn't like being reminded of how things were. Her mind drifted back to home for a moment. Back to Inkopolis, drenched in chaos. Back to Agent 8. No, Orange said, shaking her head. We're better off without it. From what Sylve described, I think we are, too, Blue murmured, a shudder running through him. He shook his head. You fought for order, didn't you? Indigo asked timidly. Blue gave him a look. Why? Yeah, I did. But, from the sounds of it, there's no fun over there, ever. Are you all still talking about me? Sylve said, making her way over to the group of her species. It made all of them jump backward. I do have ears. We. Orange started, before sighing. Yeah. We were relentlessly gossiping about why order sucks the big eggshell. Lemon punched the other in the arm. Hard. Orange let out a yelp of pain, before massaging her pained appendage. No. Orange is white, Sylve said. Odor fission sucks. Lemon blinked twice, her brows furrowing. Your ink is silver. You fought for order, didn't you? Yes, I did, Sylve muttered, massaging her hands together. I was still really young, you know. My first and only split fist. I chose Odor because that's what my twins and parents chose. And we won. Odor won. But, immediately, things started going south. Well, not, like, instantly. It was pretty good for a while. Right, Lemon said, with a nod of her head. In her mind, it would have been pretty good for a long while. But, after a while, things got too ugly. How is that possible? Lemon asked, her eyes narrowing. The other Inklings watched on as the yellow Inkling grilled the absolute shrimp out of the tiny silver one. Most Inklings would crack under that glare. But Sylve wasn't most Inklings. She'd been through a lot. Enough that Agent 3's glare wasn't enough to stop her. Well, after the first couple weeks, we got our schedules. It was gradual, you know. They didn't take all of everything from us right away. It started with them dictating when we'd get up, and what we'd do with the day. That was okay. Not ideal, really. I'd much rather make my own path, but whatever. It was orderly, like we wanted. Then, we got our uniforms. We couldn't express ourselves how we wanted to anymore. Everyone had to wear these dwab, unfresh combo of clothes. I am still wearing mine, in case they come back for me. Her voice was layered. There was a part of her that wanted them to come back for her. A part that wanted her parents to come back up and scoop up their baby girl, and bring her back home. But she knew that there was no way that would happen. The more likely case is that representatives of their elite Turf War team would come for her instead. Looking at Sylve's clothing choice, it was obvious that she didn't pick it out herself. A grey tee with no markings or words, paired with a black pair of shorts. It was completely, as she put it, dwab and unfresh. So what? Lemon said, her arms crossing. It's a small price to pay to keep Inkopolis safe. They separated us from each other. Made us sleep on our own, and only at specific times. It was like clockwork. There were no personal freedoms at all. It was like living a Pitman path. How'd you end up here? Indigo asked, captured by her story. In his eyes, order was losing points fast. Soon, it would be with chaos. Neither of which had any redeeming qualities. I have a serious speech impediment, Sylve said. We've noticed, Orange joked. This got her a glare from Blue and another punch from Lemon. Oh. She whined. I was joking. The smash invite went through the Inkopolis mail system. In fact, we got quite a few invites to come here. But what they wanted was to rid the streets of any impurities, Sylve gestured to herself. I'm an impurity to Inkopolis because I can't say impu. Impu. She shouted. Not once did she say the correct R. Exasperated, she stuck out her arms. See? I'm impu. They wanted to get rid of me, so here I am. I don't know the other Inklings ended up. But I've been pretty lonely. I sleep in the vents to avoid people. Why? Violet asked. Why wouldn't you want to make new friends here? They think I'm impu, too. She murmured. The only reason I've stuck with you guys so long is because I knew you'd shoot me if I ran away. A heavy silence overtook the other Inklings, as they took in this information. The poor girl had had her life chosen for her from her very beginnings, and now that she was here and finally allowed to be herself, the only thing she wanted to do was run away. Obviously, she was strong and strong-willed. It took some squid with a pair of oysters to stand up to three like that. But her insecurities still managed to get the better of her. Lemon put a hand on her shoulder, rubbing gently. Hey, we aren't going to shoot you. You're one of us, now, okay? No more running away. Sylph's eyes glowed brightly at the older Inkling's words. These were going to be her first friends in what felt like ages. Hey, guys? Smash vs 169 Sonic asked, partaking in his favorite pastime of staring out the window. There's a weird-looking cat outside. What on earth are you? Reggie started, before stopping himself. The window was completely blocked by Captain Falcon, who pressed his face up against the glass. Behind him, the other Sonic sat stretching. Captain Falcon waved happily at the others inside of the hotel, a wide grin stretching over his face. Are we getting new newcomers? Cooking Mama asked, grilling some cheese on some bread. Already? This is unheard of. Digby mused, rubbing his chin. Slowly, the rest of the travelers limped up towards the door. They had had a rough ride getting here in one piece. But here they were. Hey, that one looks kind of familiar. Smash vs 169 Richter mused. Is that Max, newer newcomers? What in the blazes are you talking about? Max returned to the lobby of the hotel on the word of Funky Kong. The groovy primate informed the showrunner that, quote, we got us some newer newcomers, Browski. Looks like our fam gets bigger every day, ain't that right, Max Y man? This was most odd. Sure, he could accept the fact that they might get a few new friends unannounced here and there because of the screwy multiverse situation. Max, too, had his ways of regulating the ebb and flow of the universal currents. He'd suspected something was amiss when the new Inklings came to town, but now they had more people to deal with. It was absurd, to say the least. Overlooking the main lobby from atop his balcony overlook, he spied the newer newcomers. First 12, now 22. Much like the Inklings before them, the newer newcomers were surrounded by onlookers. But this time, something more shocking struck them. A few of these newbies bore shocking resemblances to some already here in the hotel. Wow, Sonic from the original Smash vs muttered, scratching at the backside of his head. He was face to face with what he guessed was supposed to be him. But something was wrong. The realistic blue hedgehog was doing just the same thing, checking out his more cartoony counterpart. Are you me? Favorite food, the original Sonic asked. Chili dogs, verse 169 Sonic answered. Best friend? Tails the fox, Sonic answered. His counterpart nodded in agreement. Sonic squinted his eyes, real first name. There was a pause, as the realistic hedgehog looked about to make sure no one was watching. Of course, everyone was. The realistic hedgehog leaned in to whisper in the other's ear, Ogilvy Morris Hedgehog. Sonic was shocked. His heart seemed to stop moving, as he looked at his counterpart. Is this what he'd become? What he's fallen to? The jump didn't treat me all that well. Sonic muttered, his voice fuzzy. I haven't got a clue what you mean, but me either, sister. Both were surprised their conversation didn't turn into one about trying to find which of them were the faker. Max's eyes swam through the crowd gathered below him with wide eyes. Taking a pair of specs from the pocket of his suit, he wiped them clean, before placing them on his face. Nothing changed, because he didn't need glasses. If anything, it became blurrier, but the general idea was still there. Copies had come to his hotel. And one strikingly handsome one looked like himself. Max cleared his throat loudly, which was hardly heard above the racket of the ogling onlookers. Annoyed, Max did it again, but louder. Eyes rose up to the man above them. As soon as he had their attention, that damned smile was back on his lips. My! What a shocking turn of events. We have even more friends to share the hotel with? Max asked. Graciously, he flipped over the balcony, landing in a bow. Ever the eccentric type, he was. Mark and the others looked onward, as Max's eyes rose up to greet them once more. The red-suited man walked towards the group, brimming with cheer. Mark was not as enthralled. In fact, he was taken aback by the similarities between the two of them. You never told me you had a brother, Mark, Wolf muttered to the hotel manager. I never knew I had one, Mark said. Brother, huh? Where's the blood work to prove it? Max joked. A few laughs went up because of it. Max threw his arms up, before sticking one out for a handshake. Joking, Mark, joking. As far as I'm concerned, you're a welcome addition to the family. This family is killing natural resources that should only be used for animal life. We're scum of the earth and should be purified. Karen shouted. Max shot her a look, before waving a hand at the others. Please, ignore her. Looks like she hasn't changed a bit, Ike mused, staring at them. It was odd. Everything about this was odd. I don't know, Ike. I think I liked her more when I couldn't understand her, Roy retorted. Ike didn't laugh. For some reason, his guard was raised. Max did a spin, with his arms out. Mark had to lean back, narrowly avoiding his outstretched arms in his dazed state. Please, feel free to look around. I'm sure this is different from what you're all used to. But you, Mark. I want you to come with me. I've got a special tour for you. Consider it a gift. From one brother to another. How do you know my name? Mark asked, still dazed. All of this was so weird. Max flashed a quick grin. I know lots of things. But your fleabag over there mentioned it earlier. Hey. Both Isabel and Wolf shouted at the same time. Right, yeah. I suppose that makes sense, Mark muttered, following behind his doppelganger. Wait. I'm coming with you, Ike insisted. He stepped up quickly and defensively. I can't have you take him without one of us, too. We hardly know you. Max shrugged. A shame, really, that you think you have a choice. This is for us hotel managers only. You don't have the right authorization. How does he know? Little Max started, but was suddenly, and ironically, cut short. In a flash, Max hit a hidden button on the floor, and a trapdoor opened beneath himself and Mark. Rightfully startled, Mark let out a gasp before plummeting. Max, however, remained calm enough to wave them goodbye. Those from the original Smashverse ran to where the trapdoor had been moments before. Nothing was present. Wow. We've been here for under a minute and we've already lost our ride home, Meta Knight droned dryly. That has to be some kind of record. What do we do now? Lucina asked. Young Link offered a shrug, before miming something out. What? I'm sorry, I don't speak sign language. Lucina told the young boy. I think he meant that we should explore a little, Solo said, with a shrug. Oh, you're so smart. Lucina told her boyfriend. Both Richters told their eyes. Did they always have to be like that? Wow, how do I say this without sounding like an asshole? Say what? Falco, please, just don't say anything. No, I've gotta, Falco said, addressing the others around himself. His eyes went to a certain raven-winged angel. You're a lot less of a dickhead than the dark pit we got across the dimensional pond. Smashverse 169 Dark Pit's eyebrows furrowed. Thanks, I guess? I thought you liked Dark Pit. Fox exclaimed. Falco shrugged. Yeah, he was alright. Was. Him and I pulled it up every now and then. Him and I were, like, equal dickheadedness, you know. But then he decided to try and kill that other angel kid, and it all went downhill from there. I mean, I socked him a good one right in the mouth, remember? Do you mean Pit? You know, the one Dark Pit was a part of once? Fox responded, his mouth burst into a straight line. The Dark Pit from this Smashverse looked on, however, in utter horror. Fox and Falco spoke as if this was some sort of everyday occurrence. But the pit that Dark Pit knew had died trying to save him. A terrible cold racked his body, as his eyes clenched close. He could feel the loss of his brother, and he despised it every second of his life. Joker spotted this sudden cold that Pitu was experiencing. Fox and Falco continued to squabble for a moment or so, before the teenager came to where they were. Breathe, Dark, Ren told the other. His hands rested on the other's shoulders heavily, trying to use his body heat to warm the other up. It didn't do much, but it kept him grounded. Fox stopped arguing with Falco to inspect what was going on. His eyebrows furrowed, looking at the two before him. Fox was in his feet quickly. Hey, what happened? Did we do that? Yes, Joker answered, bluntly. His pit's dead. He has to make others warm for him to feel that same warmth. Joker's presence seemed to warm Pitu up, ever so slightly. We can use Firefox to heat up, Fox suggested. That's an awful idea, Falco reminded. Feathers didn't like fire. And judging by the burn marks along Pitu's side. It is, Joker agreed. I wasn't kidding when I said I like you better than our Pitu, Falco said. You're a gem, you know that? Fox caught on. Yeah, he's right. I'm genuinely interested in you compared to our Dark Pit. And I'm glad to have met you. Pitu let out a soft sigh. That felt a little better. But they could do more. And the two space animals intended to do that. Wait. Let me get this straight. You fought Count Von Count? I think I saw him on the interdimensional TV the other day teaching kids how to count. The original Richter beamed to his counterpart over a pint. The two of them observed the events that went on around them. Smash vs 169. Richter shuddered, shaking his head. That's his side job. His main job is sucking the life out of innocent people. Donkey Kong and King K. Rool were locked in an intensive game of chess. Each tried to outdo each other. It was extremely slow going. DK inspected each piece thoroughly before planning an attack. Richter laughed. I would have never guessed. He seemed so lovable. DK made a move to move a pawn, before returning it to its spot. He scratched his head, before returning to neutral. Richter's counterpart tapped his fingers against the table, a ring on his ring finger making a distinct tap, tap, tapping sound. It's a front. He does that to hide his true intentions. Hurry the hell up already. Sweet Tooth the insane clown shouted at the two chess players. He threw his bag of popcorn to the floor. This is getting boring. Quiet down, Sweet Tooth the insane clown. This is true entertainment. Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz scolded, leaning forward in his chair. His bets were on the giant crocodile. The tapping caught Richter's attention. Looking at the other's finger, he spied a brilliant ring, that dazzled in the soft daylight of the room. Ah, I see you've got a ring, there, Richter commented. The second Richter asked, before following the other's eyes. Ah, yeah. I do. Wedding, or just some treasure you found along the way? Wedding, he clarified. His eyes went towards the original Richter's finger, which lay barren. I see you're still a free man. No one tie you down yet? With looks like these? Richter mused, gesturing to the other's face. The other Richter laughed, as Richter's face grew a saddened smile. I'm surprised Annette ever fell in love with me. Oh, you know Annette, too? Smash vs 169. Richter asked, with a tilt of the head. Richter nodded his head, avoiding the other's gaze for a moment. Yeah, I suppose I do. Knew would have been a better term for it. Dracula has forced him to kill her way back when he first stormed that castle. The choice still haunted him to this day. Who wouldn't have been hurt? Richter was forced to kill the love of his life. She and I actually married not long before I came here, the other Richter mused. Richter's eyes looked up towards the other. Oh? Was his simple response. The other smiled warmly, thinking of home. Yeah. And I'm sure you know this, too, she's perfect? Absolutely perfect? There's no other woman I'd rather spend my life with than her. Honestly, I don't know what I'd do without her. Ouch. Those words hurt, even if they didn't mean to. Richter stared down at the glass in his hands. Yeah, he muttered, swishing the drink. Yeah, me either. The other Richter caught on. Why so glum, chum? Oh, nothing. Just a little homesick, is all, Richter lied. The next part of his statement wasn't as big of a lie. I miss her, you know. Every day we're apart feels like a year. The other gave his counterpart a rub on the back. I know the feeling, brother. No, you really don't, Richter thought. He really didn't. Say, I've got a request for you, the original said, his eyes raising. Anything, his counterpart responded, give her an extra big hug next time you see her. From me. Wow, what a handsome gentleman. It's just like looking in a mirror. Captain Falcon said, rubbing his chin. Though, you know what they say. Jumping universes adds 10 pounds. Excuse me? Smokey the Bear said, approaching the F-Zero racer. That is a mirror, sir. Falcon shooed the other away. SHH. They're just jealous of our twin connection. I can hear your thoughts. Smokey the Bear walked away both confused and concerned. Liquid Snake sat perched in his usual spot, a leg kicked over one another. It was yet another lazy day here in the Smashverse, and yet, he felt as if it were unearned. He felt lazy, sitting around all day. He could be doing something more adventurous. Something to gain his own hold on this hotel. He huffed a sigh, feeling trapped. However, fate held different plans in mind for him today. An angry, stomp, twin clone brother kind of surprise. Liquid looked up from his spot as a shadow was cast over him. A certain, familiar, bandana-wearing individual stood before him. It was Solid Snake. Liquid blinked, rubbing at his eyes. Do my eyes deceive me, or is this real? Solid Snake? My, you've got a lot of nerve coming back from the dead again, Solid. How'd you do it this time? Solid didn't say anything in response. Beside him stood Samus and Pikachu, ready to back him up if worse came to worse. Solid had already told them how dangerous Liquid could be. "Where the fuck are they, Liquid?" Solid asked, completely blowing off his brother-esque greeting. "Rude. And a happy hello to you too, asshole," Liquid spat in return. "What the hell are you even talking about?" "Don't play with us, Liquid," Samus snarled. "WH? Playing with you? You literally just got here. I hadn't an idea you were coming for something." "The Inklings, Liquid. Where the hell are the Inklings?" Snake clarified. "The what? Oh, hold on. You mean the Squid Children?" Liquid asked. Pikachu conformed. "Didn't know you were going soft on me, Solid," Liquid jabbed. "You'll see how soft I am when I'm beating your skull in," Solid growled in return. "Touchy. Where is this aggression coming from, brother? Did I wrong you somewhere?" Liquid asked. He put a hand up. "Don't answer that. I know what you're going to say. As for the whereabouts of your stupid squids, I don't know. It's a big damn hotel." "Wow, thanks," Samus muttered. "Useless as always, aren't you?" Solid returned, displeased. He and Samus turned to continue his search. Pikachu pointed to his eyes, and then pointed sharply at Liquid. Liquid shrugged. "I just love watching you suffer. Stop again when you're in dodge. Hopefully next time you'll be in a better mood." Wolf and Isabelle walked along together, seeing what there was to see. The hotel honestly wasn't too different from the one they'd been calling home for the longest time now. But the inhabitants sure were different. The two of them witnessed quite a few oddballs as they walked along. As they turned a corner, however, both spied a familiar person. Or, well, dog. "Digby!" Isabelle shouted, excitedly. This caught the attention of the dog in the red blazer, turning towards the two of them. "Digby!" Wolf muttered, not nearly as excited as the other. "Bleh!" Isabelle rushed up, and nearly tackled Digby on the spot. The other dog laughed good-naturedly, returning the affection to the sister that wasn't actually his sister. Just as they always did in greeting, Isabelle and Digby exchanged a kiss to the forehead. "Wolf," Isabelle said, turning to her interest. "This is Digby. I wanted to introduce him to you during Visitors Week, but you never showed." "Pleasure's mine," Wolf said, holding out a paw for the other. Digby looked to it, before clasping his own paw inside. Firmly, they shook hands. "I hope you've been treating my sister with the utmost respect," Digby mused, a smug grin growing across his face. "Digby!" Isabelle exclaimed, lightly slapping her brother's arm. Wolf, however, had another thought on his mind. "WH? Sister?" Wolf asked, alarmed beyond all hell. "You two are siblings?" Now that they mentioned it, the two of them did look similar. Wolf felt like an absolute and utter dunce. "Twins, actually," Isabelle corrected. "What did you think we were? Cousins?" I need to sit down," Wolf muttered. God, he felt like a fuckstick. And, quite honestly, he was. Two mute woes stared each other down, as if trying to spy any flaw in the other's creation. One was black as shadow, while the other was splashed in light purple. The two psychic types eyed each other, communicating between themselves. Suddenly, two hands stuck out at each other, grasped in a handshake. The two Pokémon could come to a mutual agreement. Fighting was not their best option. They could mutually respect one another. Man, oh man. Mute was one cool guy. King Dedede fanboyed. Kirby and Meta Knight watched the two Pokémon interacting. It's so cool to see two of them. Say. I wonder if I gets a cool doppelganger around here somewhere. You and cool do not go together in a sentence, Meta Knight said. Shush. Speaking of the devil, a certain blue penguin rounded the corner, decked out in the robes of a royal. His big, yellow flippers pressed against the floor as he waddled on to make some new friends around these parts. Beside him hopped a pink puffle, with the nickname of Kirby. The three of them looked on, as the penguin that looked as if it had just came from the club waddled past. A silence fell over the three of them. Okay. I'm ready to go home, King Dedede said. Sriracha, where are you taking me? I don't think we're supposed to go this way. Cineroar. The big, muscle-bound wrestler Pokémon held Little Mac on his shoulder, as he hurried on down a dark, deserted hallway. It looked as if it hadn't been traveled in ages. Cobwebs littered the walls, and there was enough dust to put a crematory to shame. However, the two continued on. Incinera or smelled something. What do you know? A faraway voice asked. In the empty hallway, the voice seemed to bounce and rattle as if it were a rubber ball bouncing in a sidewalk. What do I know about what? A second voice asked back. A voice that was more familiar to the two of them. That was Mark. Sneakily, the duo continued, trying to make as little noise as possible. About everything, Max returned. His office was lined with all sorts of trinkets and knickknacks. Idly, Max played with a rubber band gun, shooting at empty soda cans. His aim was, surprisingly, spot on. The rifts, the timelines, the elder gods. I want to know what you know, so that we can compare notes. Elder gods? Mark's eyes furrowed. Elder. How do you? Max offered the other a smile. Warm, and deceptively inviting. Like I said, Mark. I know a lot of things. I just want to know what you know. You know, a little brotherly bonding. I know you desire to know more about everything, too, my friend. A sudden dread hit Mark. It hit him quickly and it hit him hard. It hit quicker than any blow he'd taken inside the reset temple. Something about this whole thing screamed of wrongness. Mark's heart pumped in his chest, head turning quickly towards the door, before going back to Max. Frowning, Max picked up his cane. Pointing to the door, he pulled it in. It shut hard, leaving Mac and Sriracha no crack to peep through. Max, we're just here for the Inklings, Mark said, fiddling with his hair. We're going to get them, and then we're going to leave you all alone. Leave? Max asked, with a tilt of his head. You can't leave. None of you can leave. What do you mean, none of us can leave? Mark looked dead ahead at the, still smiling, figure before him. In the duller lights of the tucked-away office space, it was as if he was looking into a dimming mirror. Mark's jaw was slack, but his reflection shone bright rows of brilliantly white teeth. From under the rim of Max's glasses, Mark could make out a glint in the other's eye. He wasn't sure if that glint was sinister or not, but, processing the information he had just been given, would not doubt it in the slightest. Max rolled his eyes. Haplessly, he rested his head upon his hand, and his arm the table. Please, Mark. You can drop the act. I know you aren't just a simple hotel manager dead set on retrieving these stupid little squids from us, Max accused, a pinky finger moving to pick at his teeth. Lazily, he checked his nails, flicking away any particle of food that happened to be caught there. You've been sent by those hand-fuckers, haven't you? That's who you answer to, isn't it, oh Lord of the Reset Temple? Mark was astonished. Nowhere in this dimension had he mentioned that fact about himself. What? He asked, startled. He rocked uncomfortably in his seat, eyeing around the small office space. The fluorescent light above his head flickered like a dying lightning bug, casting the whole meeting in an air of creepiness. Mark swallowed, adjusting his shirt collar. His tie was still in the back seat of the I-van. I don't know what you're talking about. All we need are the Inklings, and we... Don't play dumb with me, Mark, Max told him. Their eyes locked into place, and Mark was set ablaze. It was as if the room had just gotten 15 degrees hotter. Was it getting hotter in here? I know a lot about you. A lot. Do you think you're the only one who can look across the dimensional rifts? Do you ever think about the fact that someone could be looking back? Mark said nothing, frozen in place despite the fact that he was sweating buckets. I know you're the final guardian of that legendary reset temple, Max continued, prodding at the other before him. I know that your failure to protect it is why the entire multiverse is wonky, and on its last legs. Someone with an evil mind could knock it out of orbit, and delete the one thing the Elder Gods devoted their entire lives to. How do you know? Mark suddenly demanded, his palms slamming down on the table. His eyes were hot with fire, as he stared directly at the other. Max would not wipe that shit-eating grin off of his face, either. Mark hated his godly obligation, and tried his hardest to hide it from anyone he met. How do you know? Don't give me that I know a lot of things bullcrap, either, Max, or I'll knock your block off. Touchy, are we? Sheesh, I'm glad Nora doesn't see this side of you all that often. If I were her, I'd have. Max was cut short by Mark's fist hitting the table. The Lord of the Reset Temple was tired of playing games. He needed answers. Alright, I get it. Someone's a little cranky today, even after the executive tour. Max mused. Idly, he used his cane to spine the chair that he was seated in. Now, please excuse me if I come off as rude, but you do know of the existence of other temples, yes? Of course, Mark answered. My memory might be a little fuzzy from all that time, but Right, of course. Just a test, darling, Max told him. Anywho, you do know that each, Smashverse, as our creators so lovingly called them, contain different temples, yes? This. Mark did not know. It showed on his face, as well. I thought it was just my... No. All the Smashverses have different temples for different things. Some even have essentially their own version of other verses' temples, but to a lesser degree. Max explained. Something clicked in Mark's head. Wait. So you're telling me? Max grinned, his cheekbones ready to burst from his face. A sharp one, aren't we, Mark? Yes. I, too, am the Lord. Of which temple? Mark asked. I am Maxwell, Lord of the Temple of Knowledge. That made sense. A silence overtook the two men for the first time in what felt forever. It was heavy, as the two lords sat. Finally, Max broke the silence. I know a lot of things, Mark. A lot of multiverse-shattering things. I've been cursed with knowledge. I know that our reality is a lie. This dimension? A work of fiction. Your home dimension? Fake. I can't see into the future, but I've seen the present. We're just words on an internet web page, going down a predetermined path, Mark. And another thing I know. You've come here to put an end to me, and the rest of this universe that I call home. And I can't let you do that, Mark. Pushing himself up from his chair, the Lord of the Temple of Knowledge grabbed for his cane. Blessed by the gods, the cane was never to leave Max's side, lest his power of knowledge be foregone. A shame, Mark. If I had the free will, I wouldn't act like this. We could be friends, you and I. But I know that once you leave our realm, me and my merry band of misfits will never be mentioned or heard from again. Without you here, Mark, we're gone, and your dimension is the only one focused on again. Now, sit still. This won't, ACH. In his monologue, Max wasn't able to feel the heat rising behind him. Max might have been knowledgeable, but he wasn't all-seeing. Incineroar and Little Max stood behind the well-dressed man. Coming from the vents, the fire-type and his fighting-type human companion were able to sneak into the room unnoticed. Incineroar wrapped his big, muscular arms around the suited lord. Incineroar! Sriaka cried, before suplexing the man. Little Max scurried to Mark's side, who was honestly dazed and confused. What on earth was Max talking about? Words on a page? False realities. He stood to his feet, an arm wrapping around Little Mac, who supported the other. Don't worry, Mark, we're here for you, the boxer said. We'll get you out of here. Coming to the door, Incineroar didn't have the decency to open it. Instead, he kicked it down. As fast as they could, the three of them hurried down the hallway. They needed to find the others and the Inklings fast, and they needed to leave. Wait, don't go! Max screamed, desperate, as he warily got to his feet. Using his cane as a support, he huddled. If you get too far away, I'll... All of his leads had gone dry. Snake, with the help of some others in this strange new universe, had tried to track down the Inklings to no avail. Walking down the halls, Snake, Samus, Sonic, Ike, Roy, and Pikachu looked for any sign of the 10 squids and 2 cats. They looked for ink paintings, or fur dropped by either of the Judds, and yet, they couldn't find a thing. Are you sure this is even the right hotel? Roy asked. They had been looking for hours. And they still hadn't found even a drop of colored ink. How many hotels can one universe have? Ike asked. They've got to be around here somewhere. I'm sure we just need some kind of lead. Sonic pursed his lips. He knew what it felt like to be missing some animal buddies. What he didn't know, however, is what it felt like to be missing 8 children that he'd bonded for months on end. Looking up at Snake, the stealth operator was hiding his emotions well, to say the least. Looking up, Sonic saw something above them. A long, cubical vent ran alongside the walls and ceilings of the hotel. A part of it dripped something that was unmistakable. Hey! Look! Sonic shouted, before dashing over to the spot in question. Putting his white glove outward, the ink plopped right into the palm of his glove. Cyan ink was dripping from the vents. Snake's eyes went up towards the vents. It sounded as if something were up there. Could it be? Lemon! Snake shouted, clapping his hands at the vents. Orange, indigo, blue, pink, lime, cyan, violet. Those are creative names, Roy commented. He'd never imagined their names, really. He only knew them by color. Ike and Samus whistled loudly from where they stood. Pikachu clapped loudly. Suddenly, a vent was kicked open. Looking out, there was the telltale black around a pair of eyes that wasn't human, but human-like at the same time. A yellow strand of hair dropped from the vent. "Woomy!" the agent exclaimed at the sight of her father figure. In an instant, she was out of the vents, landing in her squid form before popping back to her regular form. Snake took her into his arms, spinning her around in a tight hug. It had been too long since they'd been separated. The two of them shared a happy laugh, before Snake was barraged. Inklings spewed from the vents, and nearly tackled the clone. Each of them shouted a chorus of happy inkling sounds. Roy watched for a moment, as the happy father was reunited with his kids. It was wholesome. But soon, the red-haired prince got bored. Looking to the vents, Roy saw one more squid, looking out at them, too timid to come out. "Hey! Weren't there only 8 inklings?" Roy asked Samus. "There are only 8, and all right of them are currently trying to smother Snake alive," Samus commented. Who's that one up there?" Roy asked. Sylve looked down at her new friends, as they reunited with Snake. Her friends must have noticed, too, because soon enough, they were calling and motioning for Sylve to come down, too. Eventually, the silver inkling built up enough courage to come down with the rest of them. Timidly, she swam against the floor in her squid form, hardly able to look anyone in the eye. Tenderly, as if dealing with a hurt puppy, Solid Snake stopped down towards the last inkling. The pretty silver dazzled in the soft light of the room, and caught his eye, much like the other inklings did. "Looks like Dad's got another kid," Violet smiled, as Snake brought Sylve into his warm hug. The young inkling let out a sound of surprise, but eventually melted into the hug. It had been way too long since she had gotten any physical affection at all. The way he held her. It reminded her of the way her own parents used to so lovingly hug her. The protective arms promised her that no more bad things would happen to her, as long as she lived. She wanted to believe it. Fighting back the urge to cry and prove herself even more impure, Sylve returned the hug. Young Link and Captain Falcon were happily getting something to eat when the announcement came over the rustic speakers of the old hotel. The busy lunchroom seemed to fall dead silent, as the sound system squeaked to life. Was that the voice? They hadn't heard from Voice in ages. Max never answered where Voice had gone once he stopped spouting orders, so the chance that this might be its triumphant return sparked hope in many hearts. However, everyone was disappointed as Max's voice came over the announcements. The message, however, sent shockwaves throughout. "It has come to my attention that some of our new friends are trying to leave US already," Max explained. Even now, that damned smile was audible in his voice. "You've all seen how dangerous it is out there. It's suicide. For that reason, the hotel is going into its first ever lockdown procedure. If you see any of those friends WHO have arrived within the past week, please bring them kicking and screaming down to Max's office at once." The announcement clicked off. All eyes in the cafeteria slowly turned towards Captain Falcon and young Link, who held forks teeming with food inches from their mouths. The food hovered, as a sweat broke over both of the heroes from Smash vs. 1. "Well," Liquid Snake said, loading his tranquilizer. "You heard the boss. Looks like you two are coming with us." All around, other inhabitants of Smash vs. 169 readied themselves to capture the intruders. The Sandman readied his best boxing gloves. Mario held a pair of nunchucks. Isabelle loaded a pistol. Falcon hatched a plan. Fellas, please. We don't have to be so brash," the captain exclaimed, moving to place his fork down on the plate. "We've all come to know each other pretty well, right? We aren't going to make any brash decisions now, oh my god, look, it's Bigfoot." Heads turned to spot Bigfoot, who casually walked across the lunchroom. Once the hairy humanoid felt eyes on him, however, he froze. Liquid, however, was not amused. "I know we have Bigfoot. I've seen him," Liquid said, before readying his trank. "Say goodnight, you." Young Link threw his whole plate of food at the man, hitting him right in the forehead. The plate shattered, leaving Liquid dazed and in pain. "Ow! What the fuck was that?" he complained. Captain Falcon and young Link turned and booked it. They needed a way home. A way out of here. They needed to leave.
"Well boys, we did it. Porn is no more."
A stealth mission. While most of his party absolutely despised these kinds of things, Snake knew them and knew them well. It was his job, after all, to sneak around, gather intel, and get out as quickly as he could. Max's call to contain all members from Smashverse 1 was a definite call for them to escape from this crazy place. Who knew what he wanted with them? The eccentric, red-suited man had been throwing up red flags left and right, and this had just been the icing on the cake. They needed a way out, and a way out fast. Luckily for them, speed and stealth were on their side. "What's the plan?" Roy asked nervously. The young royal was used to constructing plans of war, but by the looks of it, this wasn't a fight they were going to win. The members of Smashverse 169 greatly outnumbered them. "How are we going to take down, like, a million guys gunning for our head?" "We aren't," Snake told them, his eyes up and fixated on the vents above them. The only question left was how to get up there. Lemon looked to Snake, and then followed his vision to the vents. Sylv has shown them the vents before Snake found them. If they could just get their human and hedgehog friends up there, they could make it up to the roof. The yellow inkling suddenly remembered Sylv. She wasn't from their Smashverse. She was from here. They probably couldn't bring her with, could they? Imagine what the hands would say. Footsteps. Snake's ears suddenly perked at the sound of approaching footsteps. He shushed his party members. A low mumbling was also heard. "Hide, hide." Snake hissed at his friends. Everyone except Sylv did just that, being that she did not speak English. Lemon's translator gave her Snake's word, and once she went to hide, so did the other inklings. Sylv was left standing in the middle of the hallway, as the footsteps drew closer. "Your ass is ass and I'm the grass man, punk, yeah you haven't heathen." The demon slurred, drunk off his ass. The one-eyed demolition expert was hardly walking upright, as he stumbled down the hallway. Sylv looked up at the much taller man with a look of nervous wonder in her eyes. Around her, Snake, Samus, and company made the best of their surroundings. Pikachu hid in the tall grass of a nearby potted plant, poking its little nose out. Snake and Samus found two separate barrels to dive underneath. Sonic spikes himself up and ducked down, looking like a quilly throw pillow. Roy had found a chair and turned his back on the drunk, ducking down behind the red velvet of the armchair. All 8 of the inklings hid behind a fish tank, peeking through the clear water. And Ike stood out in the open. Still as a statue, the mercenary made a convincing wax figure. The demon stopped momentarily in front of the silver inkling, squinting with his one good eye. Was she one of those Smashverse 1 freaks? No, she was here before. Surprisingly gentle for being as drunk as he was. The demon patted the child on the head, before digging into his pocket. You've been a good lassie, Royite. Mayor. Done spent her all in one place." Pressing something into the young inkling's hand, he continued on his way. It wasn't a coin or anything. No, it was a bottle cap. Sylv tossed it to the side, as her friends came out of hiding. "How on earth are we going to get up there?" Samus asked, scratching at the backside of her head. For a moment, they scratched their heads, deep in thought. Finally, Sonic spoke up. "Oop, wait a second. I got it." Suddenly, Sonic shot up high into the air. A loud boing sound accompanied his aerial ascent. With style and grace, the hedgehog grabbed the ledge of the vents, and pulled himself up. Where he had stood was a red spring. "Come on," Sonic urged. "We don't have much time." One after another, people followed after Sonic. First on the spring was Samus, and then Pikachu. Next up it was Ike and Roy. Snake and the inklings were last. As the realization that Sylv couldn't come with them stuck all of them. Snake gave Sylv an affectionate rub on the head. "Hey. You be good. Hear me?" Sylv looked up at the man before her. Whatever he had said sounded like a goodbye. In return, the little girl hugged his leg. She didn't want him to go. The other inklings did just the same. They wrapped themselves around their silver friend, and whispered goodbyes and good lucks. "Touching," Samus said. "But we don't have much time. I hear more footsteps." She was right. More, heavier footsteps were making their way down the hallway this time. With a final look back at Sylv, Snake and the inklings disappeared up and into the vents. Once more, Sylv was all alone. "What did he tell you?" The question Little Mac asked was not an easy one to answer. If Mark was completely honest, he hadn't a clue what Max meant by his ramblings. The man in the red suit spoke with absolute conviction. Absolute certainty. Something about words on a web page? Mark's head was still spinning, trying to make any sense of it. "I don't know," Mark answered, being tugged along left and right. Incineroar was loving the staring escape. The cocky Pokemon was having the time of his life defending his trainer and the hotel manager. Incineroar. Incineroar bellowed, as he picked up and threw a giant rat. The rat bellowed as it hit the wall, slumping down. It looked important. As if it made all of the rules around here. Incineroar hated rats. He sounded pissed, Mac commented. The place down here was like a maze. It was almost as if the place was designed to make it impossible to find one's way out. Going somewhere, Mark? A voice asked inside his head. It was the voice of Max. The voice struck a fear in Mark, but he didn't react. Mac must not have heard it, because the boxer continued onward. You can't escape, Mark. I know every move you make before you make it. Soon, I'll be right there. And then we can talk again. I can tell you so many things, Mark. I can. Ah, here it is. Little Mac said, as he found the door out. It was locked, but that didn't stop Incineroar from bursting through it. Mark smirked. Looks like the Lord of Knowledge didn't know jack shit. But now they were in the main lobby. Surrounded by an army of smashers who were after their heads. Mark slowly offered a wave. Ah, Mark the hotel manager. Dr. Doofenshmirtz exclaimed. What an unexpected surprise. And by unexpected, I mean completely expected. Pressing a button, the evil doctor dropped a platypus-sized trap on the trio. Easily, Mark swatted it away. If you don't mind. We'll be going now, Little Mac said. Walking towards the main door, Incineroar kicked it open. Really? Biker Wario asked. What? Usually that works. I expected them to be a little smaller. Heinz told them. Don't let them get away. The Goomba with the hat shouted, slowly running after them. Incineroar heard this, and turned around. Baring his teeth and claws, the big cat growled at them. Needless to say, Mark, Mac, and Sriracha escaped. The only question left was how they'd escape the dimension without the Ivan. Things did not look good for King Dedede and company. With his back to the wall, members from Smashverse 169 inched closer and closer to them. Each barred something that would put them asunder, and bring them right back to Max. Desperately, King Dedede looked to Mutwo. What'll we do, Mutwo? Mutwo looked at the other three, before putting up a peace sign. With that, the psychic type teleported away. Screw you too, you big purple asshole. Dedede shouted, shaking a fist. His eyes returned to the approaching army. Meta, Curb, if we don't make it out of here alive. I just wanna say I've always sorta liked you too. As have I, Dedede, even if you're a lazy, greedy asshole, Meta Knight retorted. Poyo! Kirby exclaimed. He jumped out before his friends, and stood between them and their enemies. Really? Mr. L asked. What's that little pink gumdrop going to do to us? Meta Knight and King Dedede exchanged a look. Kirby put on his angry eyes, frowning deeply at the bad guys before him. Taking a small breath inward, Kirby started inhaling. Papers flew all around, and books fell off of shelves as Kirby sucked deeply. Soon enough, the entire army was within his mouth. As quickly as they had entered, Kirby spat them back out. Now they all were truly traumatized for life, that, Meta Knight answered. Let's make like a bowling ball and bounce. King Dedede exclaimed. Quickly, the three Kirbyverse representatives looked for a way out. Fox and Falco had met up with Isabelle and Wolf. Isabelle was downright in a panic, as the alternate smashers hunted them down relentlessly. For Wolf, Fox, and Falco, however, this was nothing new. What do we do now? Isabelle asked, a quiver of fear rocking over her. Try not to get caught or die. That's a start, Falco responded. No one thought it was funny, but it was a good ground rule to follow. The squad had made their way towards the garage without much resistance. Isabelle had urged the three space warriors not to shoot anyone, to which all three of them agreed. There was no need to kill anyone so long as they didn't have to. Kicking down the door to the garage, the four animals found all sorts of different vehicles to choose from. Sure, it would be a crime to take anything from here, but how could they be prosecuted? It was the perfect crime. Perking an ear, Fox heard something. It sounded like someone was crying out for help. It was in a strange, alien language that Fox didn't understand. And yet, he couldn't help but heed the urgency in their voice. Against his better judgment, the heroic mammal went to go and investigate. Slowly, Fox crept around the corner. There was a small enclave in the wall, hardly big enough for him to fit inside of. Flicking on his reflector, the dark area was illuminated in a soft blue glow. The light from the reflector kissed the walls of the small area. The crying grew louder as Fox drew closer. Squinting ahead, Fox saw a reassuring sight. Before him sat Collie, Marie, Judd, and Lil Judd. Lil Judd was in a state of panic, crying his eyes out as Judd and the Squid sisters tried to calm him down. "Hey, it's okay, guys," Fox told them. "You're safe now." The Squid sisters and the Judds, however, did not know that there were others from their homeworld in this strange dimension, however. So all four started attacking Fox. Luckily Fox's shouts of surprise were loud enough to alert the others in his party, or else they might have had a casualty on their hands. Cracks of a whip were heard, as Smash vs 169 Richter chased after the original. All the bonding they had done seemed to mean nothing. Max's word had always been law around here. And that meant turning himself in. "Stop resisting. I'll be much easier on you," Smash vs 169 Richter commanded. His urgings did nothing to stop Richter's retreat. If there was one thing he didn't want to do, it was kill himself, or the other himself. He knew how terrible he had felt upon the death of Annette. He wouldn't want for his Annette to feel the same thing. A whip lashed out, catching the original Richter right around the leg. Tripping, Richter landed painfully forward on his stomach. The wood splinters of the floor stung like a knife in his. He groaned, trying to push himself upward. The other Richter, however, placed a boot on his back, keeping him down. "You put up a good fight, I'll give you that much," said the counterpart. "Too bad. Hopefully Max lets you stay." Richter groaned again, a dull panic beginning to set over him. This was it, wasn't it? He wasn't going to be able to go back to Simon, or Lucina, or any of the other friends he had made in his own Smashverse. Desperate, he thought of a way out of the situation he was in. An idea came to him. But he didn't like it. I killed Annette," Richter shouted suddenly. It was the first time in his entire life that he had admitted it aloud. He always tried to hide the trauma by saying that she was turned into a monster. Something he had to kill. But the fact still stood. He had killed Annette. This was shocking, and the shock on the other Richter's face was clear. You what?" he asked, taken aback. This moment of hesitation was all Richter needed. Grabbing the other's boot, Richter tripped him. Smash vs Richter joined his counterpart on the floor, as the original Richter scrambled to his feet. In an instant, both Richters were up on their feet. Weapons were cast aside. It was knuckle-to-knuckle brawling time. "How could you?" Smash vs Richter asked, a hurt in his voice. Richter didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. The grief still welled within him to this day. Their eyes made contact again. Gritting his teeth, Smash vs Richter swung with all his might. Richter narrowly avoided the punch. The wind behind it whipped past his ear. Going under, Richter landed a punch to his doppelganger's side, not wanting to inflict too much damage. The other Richter wheezed in pain, gritting his teeth harder. "You're a monster," Smash vs Richter shouted. "I know. I tell myself that all the time," Richter responded. He was too slow to avoid another punch. Right to the eye. Reeling back in pain, Richter received more blows from his counterpart. They really did not tickle. Smash vs Richter rose another fist. Before exhaling sharply in pain. He had a sharp pain in his back. And a slice wound that was nothing to scoff at. In pain, the other Richter went down. Solo stood, holding his sword. On the tip of it, blood gleamed red in the afternoon light. Instead of relieved, Richter was appalled. "Solo?" Richter shouted. "No need to thank me," Solo said. Lucina soon turned a corner, as well, to see her boyfriend standing above a bloodied Richter. Her hands went to cover her mouth, as to not cry out. "What the hell, Solo?" Richter screamed. "Thank you? Why would I thank you?" "I saved your life," Solo said. "I was fine," Richter screamed back. "You might have just killed me." Lucina stopped to the side of the downed Richter. He still had a pulse. Which was good. Quickly, the young woman got to work trying to bandage him for now until someone found him. She said nothing to the two others. "What if that had been the real me? There's no way to tell the difference between us," Richter exclaimed. He was absolutely heated. He was winning the fight. "It was quite obvious he wasn't you," Solo responded, inspecting his hand. "Besides, I didn't cut him that deep." Lucina finished her wrapping. Standing, she took in a deep breath, her eyes opening as she faced Solo. There was an anger biting behind them. "Solo," she said, her voice wavering. That was extremely irresponsible of you. I cannot believe you'd put the life of a friend on the line like that without any questions. What if that had been the real Richter? It worked, didn't it? Solo huffed right back, his arms crossed heavily over his chest. So, I'm the bad guy here for saving this puny weakling? Yes. Richter and Lucina both shouted at the same time. Solo scowled. HMPH. Then you both can bite me. With that, Solo turned on his heel. He was going to find a way out. Wow, was all Richter could manage to say. Lucina bit at her lip to stop the frustrated, angry emotions from boiling over. He can be such a dick sometimes. Silently, Richter agreed with that statement. Where are Fox and Falco? Captain Falcon asked Mark on the lawn of the hotel. It appeared as if everyone had escaped without a hitch except for the animals. Mark flickered on his communicator. In the garage. If I had to guess, they're looking for a way out just like us. Pika. Pika Pika. Kakaku exclaimed, pointing off in the distance. Off the way, and still on the tracks, rolled the smash train. Just on time as always. Mark gave a small smile. What about the others? Samus asked. Mark gave a hand wave. They're smart. If we don't catch a ride now, we'll have no chance at ever making it back. Mark was right. But still, it felt wrong to leave the 8 of them. Hopefully they could fend for themselves. The smash train clucked and clacked down the track. Inside, 24 members sat, reflecting on the adventure that they had just been on. It was a wild journey, really. Smashverse 169 was the thing of nightmares with how outlandish the inhabitants were. At the head of that outlandishness sat Max, the kingpin of the whole universe. And the embodiment of why it was so unstable. King Dedede helped himself to a handful of the complimentary chocolates that were being carted around. How's dat for heroism? I don't need no villain's pat in my back all the time. Dedede exclaimed loudly, shoveling chocolates into his mouth. You didn't do much, Dedede, Meta Knight said with a glance. The only time we met opposition, Kirby dealt with it. And not true. King Dedede spat back. Literally. Meta Knight wiped hunks of chocolate off of his mask. Remember when we met them lil ninja dudes? I belly flopped them. I thought you dripped, Meta Knight admitted. Well, I did. But I saved your backside, Meta. The king grinned. Meta Knight sighed. Whatever you say, Dedede. Across the way, Captain Falcon approached young Link, who was within the gaggle of inklings. Cyan, Blue, Orange, and Indigo were glad to have their Hylian buddy back. And Captain Falcon was happy to see that the kid was safe. Here, Captain Falcon offered. In his hand, he held a bottle of milk for the kid. The young hero of time looked up at the racer, before gladly accepting the dairy product from him. You did good in there, kid. I didn't know you were such a good fighter. Remind me to stay on your good side. Young Link let out a small chuckle at that, as Captain Falcon messed up his hat. Offering the milk to his inkling friends, all 5 of them took turns drinking the refreshing drink. Falcon walked down the long hallway of the train. As he went, he passed by Lucina, Richter, and Solo. Lucina sat with her arms crossed, looking intensely at a spot on the seat beside her. Idly, her feet shuffled across the cool metal that made up the train's floor. On either side of her sat one of the young men that had been with her in the alternate hotel. Solo sat to her right, with Richter on her left. All 3 friends sat in absolute silence. It was almost maddening, listening to the clacking as the smash train chugged along. Finally, Solo broke the silence. Lucina? Are you angry with me? Yes, she answered, quite simply. Oh boy. Richter sunk deeper into his seat. Just what he needed. Another healthy dosage of relationship drama. It was the norm around here, after all. It isn't that big of a deal, Solo told her, knowing exactly what it was that had gotten her goat. It worked, didn't it? It was needlessly risky. What if you had struck down the real Richter? Then what would you do? I didn't, did I? Solo responded. It all worked out just fine. I knew what I was doing. Did you? Lucina asked, a small point to her question. Solo hesitated. I'll take that as a no, she muttered, returning to her intense stare at the seat beside her. Perhaps it was a little bold of me to go in swinging like that. I can admit to that, at least, Solo said, rubbing at the backside of his green-haired head. But it worked, and that's what matters. Richter's okay, and the other Richter is in pain. He was in mortal danger. Weren't you, Richter? Please, don't bring me into this, Richter responded. Besides, I think I remember you telling me to, and I quote, bite you. Lucina gave him a sideways glance. It was the solo's closing remarks that cut her the deepest. I apologize for that, the hero said. I felt as if you both were attacking me for doing what I felt was right. Defending a friend. Richter rolled his eyes. That was the cheesiest make-up line he could have used. What was worse was that it worked. Lucina places a hand on his, her eyes coming to meet his black ones. Apology accepted. Please, be less impulsive next time? Of course, m'lady, Solo said with a half bow. Their relationship would remain through this fight. But it felt as if there was a small crack between the two of them. Across the way, Snake sat, looking out the window. He was overjoyed to have escaped from Max and his crazy dimension, and he was excited to have the Inklings along with him. But something felt missing. A part of him wasn't there, and he knew it. Snake? Roy asked the stealth operator. Cautiously, he waved a hand in front of the other's face. Snake didn't respond. Snake? Snake, are you okay? Yeah, kid. I'm fine, Snake assured, unconvincingly. Doesn't sound fine, I commented. I'm fine, Snake reassured. Snake? That was a different voice. Turning his head, he saw Lemon standing there. There was some kind of emotion brewing in those usually stoic eyes that Snake couldn't quite read. What is it, kid? He asked, not unkindly. She started, before pausing. She couldn't quite think of how to put this into words. I missed Sylv, she said, blatantly. Snake's mouth pursed itself into a solid line. Yeah. Me too, Lemon. Me too. Samus's brows furrowed, as she observed the event before her. Wait, hold on. You speak Inkling? Samus asked. Translator. Every communicator has one, Snake brushed aside. There's a translator? Samus asked. That would have been useful 4 tournaments ago. Mark, is that true? Mark swiveled around in his swivel chair, communicator on his lap. Yeah. Didn't the hands tell you that? No, she muttered. HMPH, weird, Mark commented, before returning to the device he held on his lap. I hardly knew her, Snake shrugged, but I'm sure she has her own friends that'd be sad to see her go. No she doesn't. Lemon muttered, looking down at her shoes. She's kind of a loner. She's from a dimension where Order 1, and she hasn't seen any of her friends in forever. Snake took in this new information. The only reason he had left her behind was now null and void. A feeling of deep regret seeded over him. He quickly turned his head to Mark. Mark, Snake said. Is there any way we can turn this train around? And go back? No way in hell, brother, Mark exclaimed. We need to go back. I left something very important back there, Snake told the other, moving to stand. Mark was intimidated, to say the least. I wish I could help you, Snake, but I really can't. The Smash Train's destination is already preset, and I can't edit it. We'll be headed to the Splatoonverse, and then hopefully back to the right Smashverse in right about. Personally, I think that Max guy was a total dickhead, a gruff voice grumbled. Agreed, a higher pitch voice answered. All eyes turned towards where the voices had come from. Incineroar and Pikachu looked back. Little Mac was grinning like a madman. I got the translator to work. The boxer beamed. How? Samus asked. You're in boxing gloves. Well. Little Max started. He was interrupted by the train lurching forward, making the first of 2-dimensional jumps. To the Splatoonverse. Max slammed a hand down on a wooden table. His anger and frustration was off the charts. I gave you fuckers one job, and you somehow managed to mess it up. The red-suited megalomaniac exclaimed. His hands went to his head, where he pulled at his hair. Your incompetence is unmatched, I swear. There's an unlimited amount of you, and only 20-something of them. It's pathetic. Well, gee, Max, we're awful sorry. Paul Bunyan told him. We all did our best to try and get them. They're just too smart for us. What the hell are you talking about, Paul? I didn't see you in a hunting chapter. Max shouted. The what? The last, confused. Max was making even less sense than usual today. It's not that big of a deal, Max, Dark Pit said. We lost a few intruders. At least we still have each other. Of course, Emil Castagnier said, with a nod of his head. We might have lost a few, but we'll always have each other. Who the fuck are you? Max asked. Did the author just write you in as some kind of fan service character? I don't understand, Emil answered. I've been here since the 16th tournament. There hasn't been 16 tournaments. There hasn't even been one. You all exist in this sick dimension as some sort of joke. Max exclaimed. We'll only continue to exist for as long as this arc continues. Once it's over, it's back to the void of non-existentness. I promise you, I'm no joke, Jeff the Killer interjected. Neither am I, Smokey the Bear, too, responded. I'm the giant rat now, a giant rat said. I get to make the rules. Max hit his head on the table. He didn't feel anything because he knew he wasn't actually real. Don't you get it? The only reason we're still getting spotlight is because there's still unfinished business here. Max paused. There's unfinished business here. There's unfinished business here. Max exclaimed. In the garage. They're in the garage. You've got to keep them here, or we'll never see the light of day again. Everyone looked at the man confused. Fuck, alright, Isabel shrugged. Let's go make some business be unfinished, then. Everyone charged in the wrong direction. Incompetent idiots. Max shouted. Grabbing his staff, the eccentric man tapped a hidden button, dropping him down. And towards the garage. Sylve walked sadly along her way. At this point, the little squid didn't know where she was at all. She'd never been to this part of the hotel before. The air felt heavy, and smelled of motor oil and grease. Her heart was heavy, as well. She had just got friends. Real, genuine friends. And now, they were gone. Without her. Why didn't they take her with them? She wanted so badly to be rid of this place, and to be with people she knew and loved. She was used to being lonely. But knowing what could have been, she hurt even worse. She didn't know what pulled her, but she found her way inside the garage. It was strange how the universe seemed to pull at random times. Perhaps it was fate, or perhaps it was a higher authority afraid of what the underlings would do if certain events didn't transpire. Either way, the garage seemed to call to her. What the fuck is a Thanoscopter? Falco asked, inspecting the spiffy-looking yellow helicopter. Our ticket home, Wolf explained. Sitting in the cockpit, Wolf inspected the dashboard. On the dashboard sat a dial that allowed the Thanoscopter to hop dimensions. Currently, it was set to Smashverse 169. With little tweaking, Wolf made it read Smashverse 1. Sylve timidly watched on from a distance. These people weren't from around here, either. Where those Inklings? Maybe they knew the other Inklings. Timidly, Sylve made her way towards the others. Falco was the first to notice the small creature. Stealth was not her strong suit, being a shiny shade of silver, after all. Falco nudged Fox, who was inspecting other vehicles. Yo, McCloud. Is this one of our guys? Fox turned around, spying Sylve. Through his black eye and puffy face, he couldn't really make out any specifics. Yeah, I think so. Collie and Marie soon noticed the other, as well. The three Inklings eyes each other, before Sylve spoke a simple sentence. Do you know Lemon? She asked. Know her? Yeah, we know her, Collie said. The idol offered a hand to the small squid. Come with us. We'll bring you to her. Sylve never accepted an offer so fast in her life. The Thanoscopter roared to life. Wolf took the main seat, while Isabel took the co-pilot spot. Get in, losers. Wolf shouted. We're going dimension hopping, and we don't have all day. Do you even know how to fly this thing? Fox asked. Well enough, Wolf mused. Suddenly, the door to the garage was kicked in. Max stood in the doorway, as the rest of the escapees piled into the backseat of the Thanoscopter. Where on earth do you think you're going? Max shouted. Rushing forward, the Lord of Knowledge lunged to grab anything he could. The roof of the garage was opening, letting in the blue of the sky above. I can't go back to that darkness. It's maddening. Even between chapters, it gets so dark and lonely. I can't. Max grabbed onto Sylve's shoe. The Inkling was taken aback, as he tugged at her. Wolf has begun hovering, moving to make his way out of here. Distressed, Sylve cried out. Max was nearly pulling her clean out of the back seat. If it weren't for the Judds and the Squid sisters pulling her back in, she'd be a goner. Kicking her shoe off, Max had nothing left to grab onto. Falling 5 feet, the Mark lookalike landed painlessly on the ground. You can't leave. Max screamed in desperation. If you leave, we don't exist. His words fell deaf on Wolf's ears, as the pilot screwed with the archaic controls. How on? What the heck do I do? I've set it up right. Let us jump. He growled at the air machine. What's that button do? Isabel asked, accidentally pressing a big green button. Isabel knew, Wolf started, but it was too late. They warped out of Smashverse 169, and back to the original. Defeated, Max moved to sit in a chair in the garage. They were gone. The only reason he existed had up and left, via the fucking Thanoscopter of all things. He knew it was only a matter of time. Soon enough, Smashverse 169 began to fade to black. As the darkness overtook him once more, Max began to sob. All at once, the train slowed, as the underground station of the Splatoonverse was made known to them. For many within the confines of the Smash train, it was the first time that they had ever seen anything relating to the Splatoonverse. And the messy, dirty, underground railway wasn't exactly making any good impressions. That's some peculiar artwork, Roy commented, pointing out the window at the new graffiti that the walls were tagged with. Do you think they hired someone to do that? Probably not, Ike responded, idly inspecting Ragnell. From what I've gathered, a chaotic bunch have formed the world to their liking. Orange let out a triumphant trumpet, pounding her fist in the air. Shell, yes we did. Team Chaos destroyed. It doesn't look destroyed, Cyan commented, staring out the window. It kinda looks exactly like when we left. Did nothing happen while we were gone? Lime asked. Maybe no one's been down here yet, Orange stated. It isn't exactly the most popular place in all of Inkopolis. The place looks like a dump, Incineroar's gruff voice came. No one was used to hearing the big cat's deep baritone. You kids live like this? No, Cyan muttered, shying away from the cat that looked like it could swallow him whole. We live above ground. Orange retorted, with no fear in her voice. An idea struck her. Hey, Mark. Can we go up and see? Absolutely not, Lemon returned, sharply. And don't ask that monster for anything. You hear me? Monster? But Lemon, I just wanna Lemon's glare was enough to quiet the chaotic inkling. She didn't want her memories of Inkopolis to be tainted if the world had gone to shrimp. And, more importantly, she was still bitter towards Mark. Mark made no rebuttal. It stung to know that he was the only reason for their return to the Smashverse and was still despised, but couldn't fault them for it. Snake gave a glance back towards Mark, before his eyes turned to Agent 3. Lemon, Snake started. Oh goddammit, any semblance of that grudge towards Mark had evaporated. Lemon turned towards her father figure, eyes and ears intent and listening. Mark's the only reason you're coming back to Smash. Lemon's expression darkened. That might be true, but that didn't mean she wanted to hear it. I don't care, she responded coldly. What he did is inexcusable. Can someone fill me in? Richter asked. No one did. Not of my own accord, Mark added. Lemon turned towards him, her brows turning downward angrily. I don't care, and I don't want to hear about it. Murder is still murder, no matter the motive. Murd? What? Richter asked. Again, he was left out in the dark, along with Solo and Lucina. Young Link and the rest of the Inklings looked on. It felt like this confrontation was a long time coming. The train started moving again, in the same direction they had come from. If all things went well, they'd be back in the right Smashverse in no time. Lemon, you're being unreasonable, Snake spoke. I don't care. She shouted. Mark is still a fuckhead, and no semblance of reasoning will change that for me. With that, Lemon stormed away and towards another cabin. The Inklings looked on, honestly in awe. She yelled at Snake. Orange muttered. No, really? Lime asked, sarcastically. Is anyone going to tell me what happened? Richter asked. What are we fighting about? The train was rapidly picking up speed once again. Now, for some inexplicable reason, Snake felt even more empty than he had before. Had he been wrong to stand up for Mark like that? Samus offered a soft pat on his shoulder. The bounty hunter was not the best at comforting people. Captain Falcon looked to young Link, and then to Ike. Finally, he looked to Snake, and offered a shrug. Kids, they're right? Can't reason with them, can't live with them, and they smell bad. He paused for a moment, hand going under his nose. Hey, wait a second. Where was I going with that? I think you were supposed to finish it with can't live without them. Roy offered. Captain Falcon offered a finger snap and then a finger gun. Right. What he said. Can't live with them, can't reason with them, ASM. He was cut short as the train made the dimensional hop. Back into Smash Vs. 1. The Thanos copter came into Smash Vs. 1 screaming bloody murder. The amount of G-forces hitting every single passenger right in the face was astounding. It was exactly like jumping dimensions on the Smash train without the protection of thick steel around your entire body. Compared to the Smash train, jumping dimensions via the Thanos copter felt like going down Niagara Falls in a soda can. For one person, it might have been manageable. But, with as many people as they had, it felt awful. The engine, too, didn't like it. Coming out of his daze, Wolf was immediately aware of a red, blinking light in the cockpit. Blinking right in his one good eye was a warning that they were losing altitude, and fast. If they lost too much too fast, it would lead into their certain doom, without a doubt. Isabel, beside him, looked woozy. She was not a frequent flyer, like Wolf or the other airborne animals. She looked as if she were going to pass out at any moment, teetering awkwardly on the edge of her seat. Are we back? She asked weakly. Not yet, Wolf told her, trying his hardest to work with the ancient controls. Damn it, if you were in a wolfen, they'd have been landed already. Sylve sat between the two squid sisters, frightened out of her mind. The young inkling, too, was beginning to feel lightheaded. Colors were blurring around her, as they dived lower in the air of Smash Vs. 1. Jiminy Cricket, Wolf, are you doing alright up there? Fox shouted. That ground is coming up awful fast. I better get a free bag of peanuts out of this damn ride, O'Donnell. Falco, too, exclaimed. Would you two fatheads shut up? I'm working on trying to not get us killed. Wolf growled. He hated to admit it. But they were right. They were anywhere but stable. The Thanos copter was going to crash if he didn't straighten it out quickly. Hold on to something, the pilot advised. It was mostly spoken to Isabel because he didn't care about the idiots in the back seat. However, the sentiment remained. Isabel grabbed a hold of her handle. The Star Fox members did just the same. Sylve grabbed onto the legs of Maria and Collie, who grabbed onto the Judds. The Judds held nothing. Holding down on the controls, the copter headed into a nosedive. Wolf, now, felt the air sickness that the others had felt. But that didn't stop him. What the hell are you doing? Falco yelped. You're going to get us killed. Wolf didn't listen. The ground was coming up quickly. Quicker than before. He just needed a little more. Quickly, Wolf pulled up on the controller. The tail sliced through the air, causing the Thanos copter to momentarily steady out from the nosedive. Just in time, the landing pad hit the soft dirt. Roughly, they bounced up into the air again. Wolf jostled with the controller to ensure that they didn't flip, but their landing was far from soft. Eventually, they did stop moving. A pillar of smoke escaped the dimension-hopping vehicle, but could be fixed with a little hard work and determination. Silence encapsulated the entire chopper. The only noise was the blinking red warning of them losing altitude. To shut it up, Wolf pulled the key out, and true silence captured them. Finally, Isabel broke the silence by laughing nervously. She was having the absolute biggest head rush right now, and couldn't stop the giggles. Soon to follow were the Inklings, and then the rest of everyone else. They were safe. Because of Wolf's expert falling, they were safe. I'm surprised, O'Donnell. Falco exclaimed. I thought you were taking us out once and for all. I had full faith in him. Isabel laughed aloud. Her paw came to brush up against his. Wolf looked down, spying the little appendage against his own. Softly, he smiled. Sylve and the Squid sisters were short on breath. It felt like every last drop of ink in them was up in their brains right now. I couldn't, Wolf told the other space mercenaries. We has precious cargo on board. Oh? Fox mused, raising a brow. The ace pilot was still shaking in his fur. Isabel, still giggling, met his gaze. His one eye made contact with her too. Graciously, she poked him on his snout. Boop. She giggled. This caused a new ripple of giggles to hit everyone in the Thanos copter. Even Judd and Lil Judd were beside themselves with laughter. The air pressure change really did do strange things to people. Everyone could tell. Out of nowhere, Isabel broke the laughter with words. Again, her eyes were on the pilots. And across her face was a smile. I don't know if this is the high speaking. But I really want to kiss you right now. Wolf's skin heated up, and his laughter stopped. It took a minute or two for the others' laughter to calm, too. Wolf let the other's words sink in. And then, he responded. Well, what's stopping you? Wolf mused. Holy shit, even he was surprised with how smoothly that came out. Isabel drew a gentle circle on his paw, dropping her eyes for a second. Nothing, I guess, she said. And then, it happened. Months and months and months of build-up finally resulted in the quick kiss the two of them shared on the cockpit of the Thanoscopter. Oh, geez. Falco groaned, covering his eyes. Come on. We got kids on board. Wolf and Isabel ignored them, instead focusing on each other. Holy shit, Wolf all but whispered. I'm in love. Please don't swear, Isabel requested, but I think I am, too. The moment they were sharing was cut short by the sound of the Smash train warping into reality. Off in the distance, the real Smash Hotel loomed. Something in Ridley's stone heart moved. Jesus, is this what a heart attack felt like? No. It was more pleasant than having all life as one knows it come to an end. Pie? Pichu asked, looking up at his big, reptilian friend. Then, the reasoning hit him. Holy shit, Ridley muttered. The bastards finally did it. Indeed, they had. The darkness faded from Smash vs 169, as the light returned. Max was startled. Truly startled. Angrily, he flared upwards to no one in particular. Fuck you, audio. The man shouted. My story is supposed to be over. Why must you keep tormenting me with this reality? Why can't I fade off into the abyss, like all the others? What sick game is this? But Max's story was far from over. A sudden urge overtook the man in the red suit. A new kind of sensation rippled throughout him, as he pushed himself up from his seat. Out of the garage he stormed, his cane of knowledge close in hand. Gripping it firmly, Max knew there must be a reason for this. For all of this. There was. Walking down the road, Max found something that gave him hope for the first time since he accepted his own fading reality. In the middle of the road sat a van. A white van with the ability to hop dimensions. The interdimensional I-van. At once, Max ran to its side. Popping the hood, smoke billowed from the engine. The van had taken quite the beatings from the beings of this realm, but it was still salvageable. He was still salvageable. And so were the poor, trapped souls of this realm who knew not of their impending non-existence. At once, he got to work. This would not be the last time the Smashverse heard from the Lord of Knowledge. What's the status on the Star Fox team? Mark fiddled with his tracker for a moment at Snake's request. Adjusting his reading glasses, the hotel manager squinted his eyes at the screen before him. It looks like they made it back to this dimension, Mark told the other, flicking the screen closed. Isabel, Fox, Falco, Wolf, and the Squid sisters are here. Oh, and the Judds. Looks like everyone's all here. Not everyone, Lime muttered. Max still had his translator up and running, allowing everyone to understand one another. We don't have Sylve, Orange finished, crossing her arms. We gotta go back for her. We thought the guys from her realm would need her for their Smash competition. But after realizing he was batshrimp insane, we're going back, Blue added, giving Mark a nod of his head. The Inklings, excluding Lemon, who had stormed off the second the train stopped, and Pink, who ran after her, and Snake remained on board the Smash train. They had no idea how much they'd missed the little one until they had left her behind. Why you can't go back? Mark told them, frantic. They'll know. They know too much already. And once they know you're there, they won't let you come back again. Samus finished. Please, Snake, just let her go. Sylve'll be fine where she is. But she'd be better here, Snake said, firmly. We're going, and that's final. Samus and Mark exchanged a glance between themselves. That was an awful idea, and they both knew it. Well, if they're going back, I'm going back, too. Sonic exclaimed, moving to place himself firmly back onto the train. We never leave a friend behind. Right, Snake? Whatever you say, Hog, Snake nodded. Mark, get this thing moving. We need to go pronto. I, for one, believe this is an awful idea, Meta Knight explained. A gut feeling tells me this trip would be pointless and frivolous. Yeah. What he said. King Dedede said. If you're going, at least take Kirby with ya. He'll save your skin. Poyo. Kirby beamed. Do not take Kirby with you, Meta Knight said, pointedly. What's important is that we're going, and that's final, Lime huffed. Mark, why is this thing not moving? I want to be back at Inkopolis by 10 a.m. yesterday. Mark's hand hovered over the button, hesitant. He was about to press it when... Wait! Roy exclaimed. At least say goodbye to Isabel. It looks like she's coming over here right now. It was true. Isabel, Wolf, Fox, Falco, and the others were making their way towards the Smash train, which was parked outside the Smash Hotel. Who was that they were with? Snake. A small, silver inkling exclaimed, rushing towards the stealth operator. It was a shock to everyone, really, to see her back in this reality. Rushing forward, she jumped up at the man, hugging him tightly around the neck. I really missed you. How could you leave me behind? Snake was too shocked for words. Instead, he let his actions speak. He wrapped his arms around her, hugging tightly, as if he would never let go. He never wanted to. Oh, how touching, Samus mused, a small chuckle to her voice. Always love a happy ending. All is right in the universe. What's up with you two? Little Mac asked, pointing to Wolf and Isabel. They seemed happy. Happier than usual. Both shied at the question, rubbing at the backsides of their heads. I guess you never feel closer to life than when you almost die, Wolf answered. Please, give the kid the answer, die pass, Falco exclaimed, smacking Wolf upside the head. The Flowbags here are happy they finally got around to not being a bunch of dumbasses. Hey! Both Isabel and Wolf exclaimed. Oh, really? Mac asked. About time, you two. Was it that obvious? Isabel asked. Only 150%, Captain Falcon commented offhanded. Say, now that we're back and not hopping dimensions anymore, who wants a burger? I'm starving. That idea sounded extremely enticing to the starving, dimension-hopping warriors. Mark, where have you been for the past few days? Master Hand asked the manager, pacing to and fro in the air. It came to my attention that yourself and a number of smashers had been missing in action. A few matches had to be cancelled because of this. Doing your job, Mark retorted, quite pointedly. The squids got lost on their return to our realm, so I had to go fetch them. They managed to find a way into that realm. Both Master and Crazy Hand shuddered. I apologize for any traumatizing horrors you might have encountered, Master Hand muttered. Although, a notice beforehand would have been appreciated. I gave the Inklings the okay to go back home, Crazy Hand admitted. I didn't expect them to get lost like they did. Honest. And now that they've been to verse 169. Mark, Master Hand addressed, his voice fully serious, verse 169 was sealed away for a long time because of the dangers that IT possess. Tell me. Did you meet? You know WHO? Who are we talking about? Crazy Hand asked. Funky Kong? Mark and Master Hand gave Crazy Hand a look. To answer your question, yes, I did meet Max. And he told me some interesting things. Did you leave him anything that he could use to escape? Master Hand asked. I don't think so, Mark shrugged. Not unless. A sudden realization hit Mark like a bag of bricks. The Ivan was still on the loose in verse 169. And Max had found it. The Lord of Knowledge was working fast. But there seemed to be some things even he didn't know. He was well versed in the history of the multiverse, and could name every single alphabet in existence. But the power to transcend realities held fast in the mind of one specific man who was no longer here. Max cursed Mark's name for being that man. Luckily, the Ivan came with an owner's manual. What a stupid plot point, Max said aloud. But he knew that his only chance to beat this fleeting reality was to fix up this stupid van. Much like Mark had done, he, too, decided to take as many souls with him as he could into the next dimension over. Knowing that existing fully was just a simple trip away was more than appealing to him. They could live. He could live. Max shocked himself on the battery, cursing out again because of habit. Who he would save, however, wasn't up to him, and he knew it. Whoever the higher power saw pity on would join him on his quest to find the real world. The world of Smash vs. 1.